I'd like to call this meeting of the Colerain Township Board of Trustees to order. Mrs. Harlow, if you'd please call the roll.
Mr. Insko?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal? Aye. Mr. Unger?
Here. Mr. Mills?
Yes, sir. I recommend the board make a motion to go into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to discuss the employment, discipline, termination, and compensation of public employees, and also in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G8, to consider confidential information relating to specific business strategy, and to discuss negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance.
I'll make the motion.
I second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insko?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye. The board will go into executive session and we will return at 7 o'clock or sooner. The board has returned from executive session. Heather, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Insko?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal? Mr. Unger?
Here. The meeting will start in a few minutes. That was just was there anything to report from executive session?
There's nothing to report.
Okay, we'll start in about 5 minutes. Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting of the Colerain Township Board of Trustees to order. Mrs. Harlow, if you'd please call the roll.
Mr. Insko?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Here, and I'd ask that you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask you to remain standing, please. May 8th, what a day in history. I'm fortunate enough in my lifetime that I got to know quite a few old World War II guys, and sadly most of them have passed on, so I'd ask for a moment of silence to remember the great sacrifices that they made to allows us to have a meeting here tonight, for that matter. And for all the people who helped resolve the world's greatest conflict, and for anybody who's ever served on our armed forces, I'd ask for a moment of silence. And may God rest their souls on this memory of VE Day. Our next item is Mrs. Harlow. Please be seated.
All right. The board has two sets of minutes to approve this evening. The first is the regular meeting of April 10th.
I'll make the motion.
I second.
It's been motioned and second. It's been motioned and second to approve the April 10th minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insko?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Excellent. Here's a copy for you to sign. And then the special meeting of April 24th. Mr. Unger, you did point out a typographical error to me. It is deed, not dead. So I certainly appreciate that, and that change has been made. So I'd like to ask for your approval in that case. Does that need to be approved as amended, Larry? Since I did make a change after the board. After the board saw it for the first time, I made a change. I was just
Because you changed it before the motion.
very good. Okay.
And is there a motion, Greg?
Oh, yeah, I'll make the motion. I didn't know we were that thing.
And I'll second. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion on approval of the April 24th minutes? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insko?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Very good. And here's the copy of this.
And our next item, Mr. Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Unger and trustees. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Alan White. Dr. White has an organization called the Giving Trees, which further down on our agenda, you'll see that Dr. White's organization has donated money to the township for the purpose of establishing fruit trees in the orchard in Northbrook. And so if I could have Dr. White come up to the podium.
Get over, please.
Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Jeff. Trustees, public servants, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan. Please call me Alan. And I work on behalf of people and citizens and groups to raise funds for fruit and nut trees, so edible city initiatives, food forests as they're commonly called, and I'm working with Lori, Laura, and Mike of Greater Northbrook, and they've secured an area with permission to go ahead and plant, so some funds have been donated, and I'm proud to say that this is actually the first set of funds that will be coming in. More money's come into the project, and so hopefully later this fall more will be given. A little bit about the project: it partners with the Civic Garden Center of Greater Cincinnati. They are the fiduciary, so they hold the funds. I go out and work with people to bring the money in, and then we distribute it to people who have made commitments to put trees in the ground in places that will not be developed and will be cared for in some capacity. So I'd like to thank you all for your time, and questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And there was another item,
Yes,
Jeff?
sir. All right, this next item is so fun for me. We had 2 students from Northwest Local School District join us, and I'm going to try to get this up on the screen. Maybe. Wait a minute. Easy. Easy for me to say here. Let's see.
To add on.
Larry, do we need to
There we go.
change the agenda
All right.
on this?
Do we need to amend the agenda to discuss this?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So there were 2 young folks that are pictured on the screen here, Marcus and Brenna. And Brenna is here with us. Would you come up to the front here? So they're both students with Northwest Local School District. They spent, this is perfect. So they spent, since January, they have been helping us out around the office. It's part of our great partnership with the Northwest Local School District. They've helped us out tremendously and have been just an absolute blast to have in the office. Their youthful exuberance is felt and appreciated. And so I just wanted to take a second to say thank you for your contribution and wish you the best as you move on.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yep. Thanks for allowing me to do that.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next item is a citizen's address, questions concerning today's agenda. I have 11. Everybody's been really good and gotten even better about trying to keep your presentation under 5 minutes. We do not run the clock, but in fairness to the other people that have come out tonight to speak, I'd ask that you please try to limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. The first one is a guy who turned in one yesterday because Mr. O'Brien wants to talk
He's
to
on
us. So, but you know, where'd Jeff go?
I think restroom or something.
Mr. Unger, you may want to note that this is not, if folks are here to talk for the public hearing, this is
Right.
not the time for that. That'll
Right.
happen.
If you're here to talk about the public hearing on the medical marijuana text amendment, that's a special time to talk, and I know you're not here to talk about that. And actually, Jeff has the, here he comes now, let's just wait till he comes back in for a second, because he has the answer to your question. Jeff Mills, the guy with the answer to your question.
Pretty good hire, huh?
And did you get a copy of this, Jeff?
I did not.
Did you have, I'll just give him mine.
Nor did I.
I can share one with you.
Thank you. I could just zip it.
You and Ross share, me and Dan will share.
I'll make more copies next time.
You're fine.
Thank you. Public record.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien, go ahead.
Okay. I came here last month's council meeting to inquire about 9471 Laura Linda. I cannot be certain for the house number because it's not posted on the house, which in itself is a violation of the property code. The driveway has 2 cars with flat tires, covered with tarps, which is a violation of the property code. The house has many tacky signs posted on the garage door, a gas grill, and a table cluttering the driveway. This house is an eyesore, and I feel that if it were inspected, more violations would be observed. The people who live there do not seem to have any concern for their neighbors, their effect on the neighborhood house values, or how the situation negatively affects the township in general. I've asked if there was any way that I could be kept abreast of any action on these issues and was told that I could check online for any progress. I have checked many times and the only information I have gleaned is that the case was opened on 4/9 with a completion date of 10/7/18, a full 6 months after the first complaint was recorded. Is any action being taken in this case, or is this case on hold for some reason? Well, I appreciate the timely feedback from Mr. Dan Unger early on about this issue. I cannot ascertain if any further action has been taken. I have attached a printout of the online information showing no apparent change on this issue. If the resources necessary to enforce the code are not available, then maybe the code should be changed or abandoned. I would appreciate it if there could be feedback tonight on this situation and some type of regular feedback to me in a timely manner and not having to wait for a full month until the next meeting. I also think the suspense period of 6 months for completion of this issue is maybe a bit too generous. Although the last issue I brought to council took many months, a year or so, to resolve, so maybe I should just be happy with the 6 months as a starting point. Sincerely, very patient citizen, Thomas J. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. I did go out and visit the site twice, but Jeff has some comments on it, if that's all right.
Okay, sure.
Sure, and our trustee Insco had asked me to do a presentation on the whole code enforcement process, and I was going to do that during my administrative report, but I do have some slides. Maybe. Here we go. So this is the property.
Yep.
Right? And these were taken today. It was a beautiful day outside. Okay. So if we zoom in, what we see are a table and chairs. We see a grill. We see, items that you would find outside a house sometimes. And so if we look at the applicable section here would be section 305.1, which is the accumulation of rubbish or garbage. And so our property maintenance code says all exterior property and premises and the interior of every structure, carport, deck, and patio shall be free from any accumulation of rubbish or garbage. Right? And so we have to look at the definitions of what rubbish and garbage is in the law. And so the definition of garbage is the animal or vegetable waste resulting from the handling, preparation, cooking, and consumption of food. So I don't see any garbage on the site.
Okay.
So we have to look at rubbish, and rubbish is combustible and non-combustible waste material, except garbage. The term shall include the residue from burning wood, coal, coke, and other combustible materials, paper, rags, cartons, boxes, wood, excelsior, rubber, leather, tree branches, yard trimmings, tin cans, metal, mineral matter glass, crockery and dust, and other similar materials. The term shall also include inoperable and broken appliances, electronic and household equipment. And so as I look at these pictures, I don't see any of those things. And so that's the difficulty here. And this is it's a tough job. And as we'll see in my presentation for the administration report, how the code enforcement process works, it requires a significant amount of sort of interpretation of these rules, right? And so it's often the case where folks say to themselves, I would never live like that. I would never allow my property to look like this. I would not put a table and chairs in my front yard. I would not put my garbage cans in the front of my house, right?
Last month I gave two other examples. Did you check those two out? Paragraph 302.8 and 304.3 were cited last month as being offensive.
Okay, what were those?
One is, buildings shall have improved address numbers placed in the position to be plainly legible and visible from a street or road fronting the house. The other one's, except as provided in the regulations, no inoperable or unlicensed motor vehicles shall be parked, kept, or stored on any premises.
Right, and so there are two vehicles, it appears today, that are parked on these premises. One is covered with a tarp. The other is a truck with the sun visor there.
Three, really.
Is there another one behind it? Okay.
Yep, there's two in a row,
Right.
inoperable with flat tires.
Okay, well, so what we cannot do and what we don't do is go onto people's property and start rifling through things. So if they are inoperable or if they don't have the correct license plates, we can't see that. And we're not going to pull the tarp back and we're not going to We're not going to go to that level of detail because, frankly, I wouldn't want the government coming out to my property and pulling tarps back on my cars. And so that we don't do that. And so if they are inoperable, it's hard to tell because they're under that tarp. And I understand that that's frustrating, but that's the call that we make because I think that you have rights that we should not violate, and I think that he has rights that we should not violate.
Sure.
Right now, you're right. I do not see a single number on that property,
Right.
and it should have the address.
Right.
Should be there, and so I agree with you there.
Okay. The vehicles are supposed to be licensed. I didn't see any evidence of licensing. So I think they're not licensed for the road or whatever. So that's in violation of the.
Is there a license plate on the back of the? I couldn't tell from the pictures if there's a license plate on the back of that
I
vehicle.
know, but the state of Ohio requires you to have one on the front and the back.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, we can look at that, and if there's a license plate issue, but I look forward. There's so much because you're not the only one that gets frustrated by code enforcement. A lot of folks get frustrated by code enforcement, right? Am I right? Can I get a witness? Right? Right, okay. So what I'm saying is, so hopefully today, what we're going to find out is we're going to go through that whole process. We're going to look at what we're doing right now. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but I just want you to be aware of what that process is, so that we can come together and resolve this. In this instance, it's tough. There's an interpretation that it's a tough call, but I don't believe that there is a trash or garbage or rubbish accumulating on that property.
Okay. I hear all of what you say, but the first statement I had last week was I'd like to have a regular update, and you told me that I could get this offline.
Yes.
Go online. There's nothing to change from day to day. No updates.
There was a change that was made from April 10th to April 11th. It went from new to in progress, and so this
It's
case has
in
not
progress from April 11th today.
Yes,
But that does not tell me anything other than
it's
in
not closed
progress.
yet. Right, and so it will be closed soon. And we've completed the inspection today, and if Chris, our code enforcement officer, I'll go back and share with him that it doesn't, that we don't go out and look for people that are missing their street numbers because there's 60,000 people in the township, and that's just not as high of a priority to us. But you brought this to our attention.
Yes, I did.
And so we will issue a notice of violation for not having street numbers. And so we'll do that, and that's fine. But the other thing that we have to realize is oftentimes, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Mr. O'Brien, I don't think that you would, but I'm sure that you would believe me when I tell you that there are many neighbors that don't like their neighbors. And so what they do is they go and they start using us as a way to get at their neighbor.
Sure.
And so we
Understand
find
that.
ourselves in situations like this where they're like, hey, I found a clause in a law that says that you need to have numbers, and so I'm going to make you mad, and I'm going to get the township involved, and so we're dealing with it. That's not what you're doing, but some people do that. And so we have to constantly allocate our precious small resources as it relates to code enforcement to the big problems, and hopefully you'll see in the presentation that we do that. But I understand it's frustrating.
Okay, so you're saying that every house in the township could end up looking like this and still be within the code?
You could paint your house yellow, blue, pink. That's just that's the interpretation between what you like and what.
Well, sure, I understand, but it's definitely you can see that the cars are inoperable. They got flat tires, which can be seen from the sidewalk, so they really can't be used. So, I mean, that's the main complaint is those vehicles that are, because that one red truck is normally parked out front.
Oh, so it's operable and it moves.
It moves every day.
Yeah. So that would be fine. I mean,
But the other two have been parked there for months on months on months,
yeah,
and they got flat tires, and the tires are rotting off of them.
yeah.
So I don't feel like that should be left alone.
I'm sorry, but my personal feeling is, and until the trustees direct me to do something differently, I don't feel comfortable rifling around on people's property
Well,
and
aren't you?
looking under things and over things.
Sure.
And
I'm saying you can see this from the street or the sidewalk.
right.
So
So if-
I didn't go on anybody's property to
Right.
make any of these statements, and these statements are all true. So-
Can you have our code enforcement officer walk that and see if the tires are flat and if that violates the inoperable
yeah,
motor vehicle
Is that a
statute?
violation to send code enforcement onto someone's property like that?
Can't go on the property.
No, can
we
you-
do a
can you
review
walk
from
down
the public right of
sidewalk?
way.
Are you allowed to walk down the sidewalk to see that?
What's that?
Can you see that from the, are you allowed to walk down the sidewalk?
Yeah, and we will. We'll go back and look for flat tires.
Okay. And then, as far as an update, is it still going to be impossible to get another update? Or
No, it'll be very possible. You'll see as soon as the status changes on CSR, you'll get an email that says, "Hey, we have completed our inspection and we've either issued orders or we've closed the complaint." And you'll get an email, and then you'll be able to print off just like this. We're trying to hold ourselves accountable, and we're trying to give you the tools to hold us accountable if we're going slow. And so you have that information and use it.
is it normal to put a 6-month suspense period on each thing? Or?
Well, I don't think that it should take 6 months, but that's the way the CSR is queued up. So if it's this type of, here, I'm going to go into all of the timelines in my presentation, but it could take 6 months depending on the time it takes to get service. So we have to serve somebody with a notice of violation, and we do that through certified mail. And if they don't collect their certified mail or sign for it, it comes back to us a month later, and we have to send it out first class. So there is a way. If everything doesn't go the way it's supposed to, it could legitimately take 6 months to get resolution on a property maintenance issue.
Okay. All right. Well, you know where I'm standing coming from. So.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Tom.
O'Brien.
All right.
Robert Stevie? Hi, Bob.
How you doing, Bob?
Good afternoon. I didn't come here to talk about property, but may I suggest regarding the previous case, I would think there's a registration of all vehicles through the Department of Motor Vehicles, and the police department could easily look up how many cars are registered to that piece of property. And if there's only one registered, you've got the answer right there. I hope that helps you.
Is that correct?
Thank you.
You can? I would guess the car could belong to Grandma, and it could be parked there and it wouldn't show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Pursuant to the Public Records Act for the State of Ohio, I'm making a request for unredacted copies for the legal billing to the Colerain Township by the Law Director under the terms of the contract for legal services for the month of December 2017, January 2018, February 2018, and March 2018. Unfortunately, in spite of numerous requests, I have only received redacted copies. Also, pursuant to Public Records Act, I'm making a request for any information regarding the deduction of $11,128.94 from the cap amount for legal services. I showed you a blow-up last month of that particular thing. At the last meeting, I requested an explanation why the billing period, starting with January of this year, began with a cap remaining balance of $88,871.06 instead of $100,000. See Exhibit B, which is what is provided to you. This is a difference. Okay. To date, no explanation has been provided for the difference of $11,128.94. Isn't it strange that there's a negative balance of exactly $11,128.94 on the previous year? See Exhibit A. Shouldn't that have been written off? Was that just deducted from the $100,000 cap of this year? I'm providing a copy of the contract for legal services for Colerain Township. See Exhibit C. The maximum amount is $100,000 per year. There are no exclusions for work on outstanding legal cases. So last year, we ran up a minus $11,000 that supposedly was overwork, work done beyond the service of the contract. That should have been zeroed out at that point, and you should have started the year with $100,000 as your cap amount. Additionally, if it is the case that outstanding legal cases are going to be paid outside of the contract for legal services, then there should be no reason for any redactions for confidentiality, as these issues could be billed outside of the contract for legal services. Any questions?
Not for mine.
I would leave any comments to Larry. I think some of that was for work that was outside of his scope of work.
But, as I've been told, some of this was for confidentiality, was the reason for redacting some of this stuff. So then last month, he got paid $18,000 something for work outside the scope of the contract for legal services. So presumably the stuff that's confidential was in that batch of money that was being paid then. So why is anything redacted? We don't have any information about the fact that it costs $15 every 6 minutes for this man to sit here. Nothing. We got nothing in the sense of being provided information regarding the cost of legal services in this community. And 2 months ago, I came here and offered to create a committee to review the contract, and I've never heard a thing from at that time about that. We had 5 good people who were willing to serve on this committee, and they got no answer whatsoever. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Anita Sargent of Chesswood.
Hey, Benita.
Hi. I would be remiss if I didn't make this statement first. What I'm about to talk to does not affect the current board. This affected the former board. So I don't want anybody to take it as I'm talking about the current board, except for you, Greg.
Oh, boy, thank you.
Okay. On 7/8 of 2017, there was a murder on Capstan and Northbrook, and I stood at this podium on July 11th and said in front of that board, in front of the audience, that we would all find out down the road that those murders and shootings were going to be related to drugs. Everybody thought I was crazy, and I said this is the tip of the iceberg because it's occurring right in my neighborhood. I wouldn't tell where I lived. I have worked and sent letters. I have went in person. I have taken pictures. From last July to currently today, there's been a total of 67 cars that have come to this house. I've reported every type of car, every color of car, every license plates. Today alone, between 2 o'clock and 6:30, 6 new cars that have never been to that house since last July came today. My sister, who lives on the other side of this house, who has texted Greg and told Greg about this, and she knows you, Mr. Unger. She worked at the school board for a year, Brenda Ritchie. And she said that she found a hypodermic needle in the front yard of this house. So she came up to Colerain Township Police, and the first thing, not a police officer, the first thing a person said, well, did you take a picture of it? Seriously, we are 65 and 66 years old. We're not going to do what he insinuated. I know not me. I know you're not insinuating. I would never do that to a neighbor and fake and say I found a hypodermic needle in your front yard. I'm 67 years old. I wouldn't do that to anybody. But this has got to stop. And I stood here in front of this podium on July 11th and looked at Chief of Police and said, what do you want me to do as a citizen of Colerain Township to assist you and to help you get what you need to do to this home? I've had 7 neighbors who are willing to come and testify. I've had another neighbor who has cameras on her house shooting up to this house, taking pictures of what's going on. There's a 9-year-old minor child in this house. While all these cars are doing this every hour of every day for the last, they're living there and then staying there and then moving out. It's like a hotel motel. That's what's going on. It's none of my business what's going on. She can do whatever she wants to do in her home. But when it starts to affect my property, my house, my grandkids running across her yard because we live next door and could step on a hypodermic needle, something has to be done. Something has to be done. He came out of drug rehab. He's a known drug user. His girlfriend's a known drug user. I don't know what to do as a citizen to make your job any easier. I was told today that Sergeant Huddle, I don't know if that's his proper name, opened a case on this house. I don't want to know about the investigation. It's none of my business. I just want someone to tell me we're looking into it. That's all I want to know. And I don't understand what more as a citizen you want me to do. I've done everything that the chief asked me to do. I wrote down license plates, I wrote down makes of cars, I wrote down the description of the people getting in and out of the cars, how long they're there, and it's got to stop. And I don't know what else to do, and I come before you as a citizen. What do I have to do to get someone to say we're looking into? That's all I want. And addressing what this gentleman said, that I understand you're doing the law. I worked with the law, the job I used to work with. I understand that. But if he, at his age, no offense to you, sir, can see flat tires from the sidewalk, I'm sure your enforcer could see them. And I'm asking you as the board members, you think that's something? This house that I'm talking about, that ain't nothing compared to what I got to live next door to. And you, and you, and you, and you, and you would not want that next door to you. Not that house, the house I got to live next door to. And at some point, all of us in here that are your concerned citizens, we're going to start moving out of Colerain. And what you're going to have left is, like he said, all houses like that.
Bonnie, hold on please, Bonnie. I'm going to talk to you. You're not the only citizens.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
You're not the only residents experiencing this. I have a lady, I talked to her residents, live on Jackie Avenue. They lived there for 40 years, 40 years. Husband is disabled, and she's also disabled. They're petrified to come outside because the neighbor is terrorizing that place. Same conditions, leaving the cars, going there. I'm hearing more people.
I'm not afraid to come out of my house.
You know, but I'm saying these people, they're the people live there 40 years. They brought this Colerain Township, what it is.
I've been here 46 years.
Yeah. And I'm calling this lady was in tears. You know, her husband, she's disabled. Her husband is going through a lot of problem, and they're afraid to bring their grandchildren to the house. They're so afraid. There are 6 grandchildren, and these people like you founded this township, make what it is, and there are some slumlords buying the houses. Some people are moving in, and they are terrorizing this neighborhood. We're not going to make it happen. We will do, with this new board, with the new administration, we'll do everything to rectify it. You'll be more happy to walk, anything, not to live that kind of life.
Well,
You don't deserve it.
my concern is about the 9-year-old little girl that lives there. I mean, every day, every night, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, in, out, men, women, men, women, men, women. And the kind of volunteer work that I do, I volunteer with JFS, Job and Family Services, for abused and sexually molested and abused, neglected children. And I took an oath before a magistrate and a judge when I became a pro CASA, a court-appointed specialized advocate, to report any form of child abuse. No one's listening. I keep reporting it, and no one's listening.
You reported this to Job and Family Services?
Yes, I have. And you know what they said? We walked in the house. There's electricity, there's water, there's food in the closets.
Wow.
We can't sit outside and watch all the traffic. I said, you want the license plates? Call Colerain Township. Call your police department. I called his probation officer when he got out of jail, because he's on probation for 2 years. And I called her and I said, what is his exact probation? I'm not allowed to divulge that to you. I said, okay, is he allowed to be around drugs? No. Is he allowed to be around other people that have been put in jail for drugs? No. So if I see that going on and I know that, can I call you? No. Call Colerain Township. Okay, when I call the poor officer, where do you think by the time the officer gets here, where do you think the person's at? Gone.
Yeah.
So it's such a level of frustration, because it's not, I'm not pinpointing. I'm not saying he's not doing his job. I'm not saying he's not doing his job. Like Dan Lloyd, the last time I stood here, when he got to talk, he said, well, you're putting this at the police feet and saying we're not doing our job. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, as a citizen of 46 years in this Colerain Township, people from the riffraff from Mount Airy through the city that are coming in here, that are moving into these things, we as citizens are telling you, hey, listen, the property values are going down. Hey, listen, there's junk cars here. Hey, listen, there's refrigerators here. Hey, listen, there's wires in the backyard and the side yard. And just like he said, when I called last year on this house, the grass was up to this high. He I don't know if it was him. He said, ma'am, I'm not allowed to go in their backyard. I said, really? So how do you ever give a person a citation if you can't see their backyard because they cut the front yard? So I had to give them permission to walk between my yard to look in their backyard. And finally he said, okay, now we can cite her. But no one tells us that as citizens. So I'm asking you, what more do you want me and my sister to do to help you do something to this house? If you say there's nothing more I can do, okay. But at least say we've opened a case and we're looking into it. I'll be satisfied with that.
Ms. Sargent, I received an email from Chief Denny, and I believe that you were copied on that this afternoon. You might not have had a chance to see it because it was late in the afternoon, but he replied back to you saying that that our detectives are working on a case.
That's all I need to hear.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bernie Fiedelday?
How you doing, Bernie?
I'm doing fine.
Excellent.
Kudos to the trustees for getting rid of the mess on Springdale Road that's been there for how many years? I understand it's halfway cleaned up finally. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's 66, 73 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, good job.
Thank you.
One of the things that you said, Jeff, I might take exception to. You say that if the cars are sitting there with flat tires, that's inoperable. I believe that's you're citing the property maintenance code. You might want to look at the zoning code, and also it's supposed to be licensed, current license on it. So I think the last meeting we talked about 3 different ways to address things, and you just can't stick to property maintenance. There's other ways to do it through the zoning code. I know this is not on your agenda tonight, but was on the agenda last meeting, I thought. So I just want to know how we're doing with taking care of that mall contract so we can get our officers back on the street.
I'll let
Yeah,
Greg
Chief's
address
not
that.
here
We're still
to speak
negotiating
on.
the mall contract.
What is it?
We're still negotiating the mall
You're
contract.
negotiating, so you're going to negotiate the full cost of our officers or another cut rate deal?
We're negotiating with the
Well,
mall
I just
owner.
ask you to, the last contract, you're less than $28 an hour is all you're getting from them. You know, $60,000 a year. Our costs are $130,000 a year for an officer. You know, just to, I mean,
Bernie, without
we're worried about somebody stealing gym shoes out of the mall at a big cut rate deal. They're supposed to be on the street. The officers,
Without
just
tipping
make
our
right here
hand-
so it's real clear.
without
that
tipping
she
our
has a
hand, there's
problem.
a-
We can't get officers over here to take care of it.
We agree there's a gap. We're working on it, I promise. We agree there's a gap, and I
Well, it
promise
needs
we're
to be
going to.
fixed.
Well, we agree with that.
Okay, the reason I really came here now. We have, first of all, I'd like to know how many mechanics or, along with Mr. Adler, work in the fleet maintenance that the fire department runs.
You want to speak to that, Frank?
Yes, there's 2 mechanics besides Mr.
I
Adler.
can't hardly hear you.
There are 2 mechanics besides Mr. Adler.
So we had Mr. Adler for all these years. We haven't, Township really hasn't grown, so we added 200% more to Mr. Adler, and now we're going to hire another one. And I guess at one time I heard that we were going to do proper maintenance for other municipalities. That's one thing I heard. That's why we're going to build up this maintenance department. The only thing I ask the trustees to do is make them show their cost and their income, or the savings, if you will. If they can't do that, same as the police department could, it needs to stop. We can't keep growing a maintenance department for mechanics when we're really firefighters. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bernie. Next speaker is Joseph Beely. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Joseph J, maybe?
I'll
What's this in regards to?
it's of Jamison Court. We'll put him back on the back of the list. David and Cindy Jeter.
I've been Joe Beal. There's a Joe Beal here.
Guys, I'm not prepared at all. This is our first meeting, and we really came to see how to conduct ourselves. Referring to this young lady, she made the point that the police officers are doing their jobs. Well, we feel to differ very, very strongly. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We, in the last few years, have experienced to the extreme just the opposite. Recently on 4/11, my wife and I was attacked by someone we barely knew in our home. I fought him off to a point of really hurting this fellow. As he was saying he was going to beat me to death, then rape my wife, cut her throat, and kill our dogs and burn our house down to destroy the evidence. Finally, after talking to this guy, this all came from, he said I had been stalking his house all day and had stole his cat. I've been fishing all day with two people. I don't bring my cell phone with me when I fish. And when I got home, I picked up my phone and this was going on. The man I met in December, nice guy. I'd never met anybody I was born in Pensacola, Florida, and so was he. Never met. I'm 62 and my wife is 61. And we hit it off. Never had a crossword with him until this night. Never had seen him drink. I'd had him in my home. I had him in my home with his children. He's a single dad. For the holidays, very nice. We bought them presents. They bought me a fishing rod and reel, real nice. And until this night, we'd never had a crossword. I'd never seen him drink. I had offered him during 2 occasions a beer at my home, and both times he left and it was half full. I considered him a friend at this point. Like I said, I met him in December. On this night, he shows up at my house after dark after making all of this is threats, 12 hours worth. We proceeded to try to calm him down over the phone. Ended up, make a long story short, because I'm not prepared for this. I mean, I've got all my evidence, but I see how I need to present this. I ended up having to fight this man off he attacked me in my front door, grabbed me, snatched me out of my door, and the whole time screaming he was going to kill us and rape her and kill her. This was going on. He was going to hire hitmen. I mean, he was drunk out of his mind. I asked him numerous times, stop. I'm going to hurt you. I can't help that. I boxed for numerous years. I can fight, whether I'm old or not, and I'm pretty healthy. And I defended us. Finally, we talked him into leaving. An hour later, he shows back up, this time for 10 minutes, with the horn blowing, not stopping. My wife and I came out. She's licensed to carry concealed. She's armed. I'm telling him, he's in my driveway, all of my neighbors. My wife was raised in this house. We inherited it. We have put all of our time and effort into bringing our home up. It's beautiful. I spent the last 5 years working on it. I retired to do so. We plan on living and dying in this house. Man shows up the second time. He won't stop. I open his door. He hits me in the eye. I've got pictures, black my eye. I mean, we had another fight, but I buried my head in his chest. I was trying to get his seatbelt out to pull him out of that van and do him again. When I got over there, he had a pistol on the floorboard. Eventually, with my wife begging him to stop, he put it in reverse, drugged me, I rolled off. My wife kept telling me, call the law. We have already had very negative experiences with Colerain Township with the law. I was robbed last year on my property. For a week, nothing was done. I would call when we had him downtown. They informed us that that was downtown's problem. It was out of the township. Call them. They wouldn't even make the call. I eventually, a week and a half later, called this guy that robbed me, burglarizing my next door neighbor's house, going through the kitchen window. I called him, called the law. They come and got him. There's other occasions of this, but I mainly want to stick on this first one. He leaves. I don't call the law, but a whole bunch of neighbors did. And my neighbors are all very friends of ours. I know. This guy comes back a third time, this time in the back of my home. He fires 2 shots off. My wife wears hearing aids in each ear. I come downstairs and said, Cindy, get up. That idiot is back. By the time I said this, he's pulled in front of my home, he's blowing a horn, and he steps up and empties a big pistol right in the air. My neighbors, again, 11 people called. Of course, in the police report, it got trimmed down to 2. That night it was 11. My wife made an even dozen because at that point she said, I don't care, call the law. And at that point I said, we need help. Took them 30 minutes. They used our home as bait. 30 minutes after the phone call, they come G.I. Joeing up to our doorstep. After 11 people supposedly called shots fired with us saying we're in danger, please help on the 911 call. 30 minutes later, they come to my home, want to arrest me because I've been in a fight twice that the neighbors had reported that David Jeter, that is me, we watched him defending himself and this guy screaming all this stuff. They come to my home to arrest me, tell me that I'm excited and that I'm yelling. Well, my wife doesn't have her hearing aids in. Even with them, it's very hard for her to hear. That's why I'm speaking loud now. My wife kept saying in front of these officers, what? And finally, I said, well, I think I have a reason to be excited. A man's just shooting guns off and done had to fight him, you're right, twice off with him threatening to do bad stuff. My cell phone at the time is blowing up in my hand with all these threats, and I'm saying, look, it's been going on for hours now. Every time he would leave, he would cell phone because I wouldn't answer my phone. Officers, can you look? They're steadily trying to get me to step out of my house. The lead officer is just talking crap to me. My wife, finally I said, I'm yelling because my wife can't hear. She doesn't have her hearing aids in. One of the officers at that point said, oh, his wife can't hear. Everybody started calming down then. Finally, I let the officers read this, and he's just, again, I've got large copies. I will have copies next month for everybody. And you're going to 12 hours of this crap. They come back and go speak to him. He tells them he threw firecrackers out of his window. The report shows that everybody's saying they seen him with a gun. This guy is an ex-felon. He's been to prison twice for sales and possession of cocaine. He's not supposed to have a gun. He's got a 12-year-old son living in this house. He's a drug dealer, come to find out. And his ex-wife called because we had to call her to say what was going on so she could. His son called me saying he was scared to death. Come find out he's an ex-crackhead. He smokes crack. He's been clean for 3 years and had started back 3 months ago. Then he admitted that he drank a bottle of Jose Cuervo tequila in a jar of moonshine that somebody had gave him. We had to get a protective order because when they came back the third time, they informed me that he didn't wish to press charges on me. And that if I chose to do so, then I would have to be arrested because I was involved in a battery on this man. This man's 49 years old, I'm 62. On our property, yes, from dragging me out my own front door with witnesses to a second time him hitting me in my face, him trying to get to his pistol, to a third time pulling up and blatantly didn't give a crap, firing off, empty gun, jumped in and took off. No one searches this man. We told. We had everything. My wife works at the university downtown. She's fixing to retire. I am retired. She's very smart. She can get on a computer and find anything. By the time they got there, we already knew he had been arrested twice and convicted and sent to prison for possession and sales of cocaine. No one bothered to search their house. They believed him. They came back to my house, threatened me, but if I wanted to pursue it, they would have to arrest me. Advised me to get a protective order, which we did the next morning, and a restraining order.
That's good.
The next day, spent all day again at the courthouse to get it, then got a court date. That's all the court papers.
Would you like our police department to follow up on that information?
Sir, we have called the sheriff's department and tried to request. We left the court the second day with the restraining orders, all the paperwork. We took it to the sheriff's department and the police department. We requested twice to speak to the chief. He was on vacation. And it was funny, I guess him and the sheriff takes the same time for vacation, because imagine that, the sheriff was on vacation too for a week.
I left Chief Denny a personal voicemail and told him that I needed to speak to him immediately, that we needed protection until the protection order was granted. The next day, never got a phone call back.
And to this day, we have not received phone calls from either the sheriff's department or the Colerain Police Department. I'm getting tired of one having to be afraid to walk. This man threatened to hire, he used the N-word, but a black man to kill us. He'd already paid him $1,000. We couldn't even, until we got this restraining order, we couldn't even stay in our house. We were afraid that he had Samoans coming to kill us, that we were going to be buried in dirt.
Can I ask that our police department follow up on that?
Well, we've been trying to. If you can get them to do it, and I'm not, officer, the first time I've seen you, I have spoke to, I don't wish to say his name because he was very informative, an officer, sergeant, and he's the only one following through, and this was over the telephone as of yet. This man's still doing what he does.
This person also said that he has a Colerain Township officer in his pocket
that protects him, and nothing would be done to him. Well, it's funny.
I'm not too sure about that.
Well,
could you give him?
Either, again, but it's funny that if I would have done this, and I'm an ex-felon, I would have been drug out of my house and arrested so quick, would have made my head spin. This guy, maybe he does have protection, because nothing has been done. They came back to arrest me and made verbal, dry threats to let it go. And he's texting on my phone the same thing, let it go. And then them say the same again. Probably could be just something I'm reaching for. It probably is. I doubt it, but I know he had when he came to court, he had an attorney. And
okay. Can you go ahead and give that information to our police officer?
Well, it's his, like I said, I will, no problem, but
okay.
It should be.
And I'm going to ask if you could follow up on this and report back to the trustees.
And I promise I'll be here next month with all y'all copies. When you read this, you're going to pee in your pants.
I just have one question,
Sure.
one request, actually, and I'm not saying nobody's not doing their jobs, but what this man pointed out for property is going on all over Colerain Township. Would any of you guys like to live next door to that? None of you would.
I've been out and visited every zoning complaint that's come along since I've been here January 1st, and I've seen a lot of it, so I understand that.
A lot of it, but
yes, I was out there last night visiting the property he's talking about.
if you can't do anything because it's not considered garbage, then can I make the recommendation that you amend your rules that say that people should have a nice front yard and not one that is like a junk collector's?
And the reason she's bringing this up, and we're not
we need to move this along. So
our neighbor has an old junk car that was parked there after this incident for like a week. She was afraid. She works out Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. She leaves at 4 o'clock in the morning and takes her clothes and leaves from there, from the gym to work. I had to ride with her. I'm retired. I don't have to get up that early. I go in the afternoon to work out. But I have to get up because she's afraid somebody was peeking around that junk car. We reported it.
I'm going to ask.
Never showed up or anything. Finally, I spoke to the neighbor, and I'm glad I did. Turned out to be a nice guy, and since then he's been
Thank you.
taken care of.
Could you go ahead and give that to our police officer, and I'm going to ask him to follow up, just in the interest of, I've got a lot of other speakers, and I want to kind of keep the meeting moving along. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. I'm not familiar with that case, and we'll go ahead and ask for Bruce Perino to be up next.
How you doing, Bruce?
Hello. A couple fast things. First, I want to speak at the public hearing, but I agree with the trustees' prohibition of cultivating, processing, retail, dispensing of marijuana, and I'll give you more specifics later. Second thing is, Greg is the Miranda Elliott that's on the, be hired. Is that your girlfriend?
She is.
She is?
I'm sorry, I missed what was being said because
No, I was asking if the Miranda Elliott is going to be the assistant summer camp director was Greg's girlfriend.
Okay.
She is.
I think it's bad optics, taking that you're the one that pushed for this whole program, and we have it because of you. It's just the optics. She may be the best candidate.
Yeah, she was, and I had nothing to do with the hiring and the interviewing, and I made sure of that because I knew this would come up, but we'll address that more later.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Thank you, Bruce. Our next speaker is Laura Bacon.
Again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
in respect to the agenda, were these
Could you approach the microphone, please?
agreeable to the
So
agenda?
our meetings are recorded, and for the sound to pick up, it needs to be in the microphone.
I just thought this address was supposed to be related to the agenda, and my issue or my discussion was not related to the agenda tonight. And I thought I would be on the
Right,
second.
and what we are,
So I was just confused. I just wanted to clarify.
right, and we talked about that at our last meeting of having agenda items, but this board has a habit of not cutting people off, and I'm trying to keep everything within 5 minutes, but I would ask that there's a public hearing tonight on the medical marijuana. If we could limit those remarks to that. If you want to bring us your agenda items would be now, and then this board has a second period towards the end to take new business items, but go ahead and speak,
Right.
please.
I just simply wanted to bring up the fact that we finished our Northbrook Cleanup Day last Saturday. It was a huge difference from last year to this year. The support was tremendous. We filled up 5 Rumpke dumpsters, huge ones, within the matter of 4 hours. So we did get a lot of garbage out of those yards, and we got a lot of garbage from the homes and everything as well. So it's the second effort to keep cleaning up Colerain.
Congrats.
In Northside. I mean, Northside, in Northbrook.
It's been a long day, I get it.
It has. It's been a long week. The other thing was, and a positive note too, is that Paint the Town is coming to Colerain, as you all know, and that's going to happen on June 9th. And it's from like 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. There's breakfast, lunch, and a party afterwards for all volunteers. We'd like to encourage all of the township, all of the services to participate by going to the Paint the Town's webpage and volunteering for non-painting jobs that might be available there. We also are having a cleanup day, basically prep day, on May 19th. And for that, we still are looking for trucks and people to drive the pressure washers around and do some pressure washing work on the 25 houses that were approved in Colerain Township. So it's all over Colerain. There are 11 houses in Northbrook. The rest are spread out over Colerain that were qualified. So we're real excited about that. The prep day also includes breakfast, lunch, and an after party at Quaker State and Lube. So if you're interested in, and I'd like to express that to all the ladies and gentlemen in the audience, as well as those watching on TV, please call me. Feel free to call me, text me, email me. If you can help with any of the jobs that are available, we really need to wrap this up. Let's see, let's make sure I said everything. We'd like to also express our interest in obtaining lower level sponsorship from our businesses in Colerain. There's a lot, the sponsorships that are basically being done for all the homes that cost $2,000 to paint each house is like from Macy's and P&G and all the big corporations. But looking down the list, I don't see a lot of local businesses, and with that, you will get your names on a banner, and we would really appreciate, and I've been trying to throw out some emails to local businesses to encourage them to support. I think you got one, Greg.
Yeah, I was just going to say, two of the three of us actually up here have local businesses. Do you know the cost on that?
$250 or $500, and that will put your business on the banner as well. And then, so your names and the logos for your business. And I think that
Yeah,
is
send that to
it.
us if you don't mind.
Oh, yes. I'm going
Please
to put
do.
it on here in case everybody's listening or watching. It is PTT sponsor, not plural, at givebackcincinnati.org is the location where you can send your information that you're interested in possibly supporting that as well. So we're looking forward to a fun time. We've requested to hopefully get the citizens on patrol to help with directing traffic that day. You're talking about thousands of volunteers coming to Colerain to put on this event. So it's going to be a big thing, and we hope that we see you all there. If you have any questions, let me know.
You've mentioned contacting you. What is the best phone number to reach you at?
513-405-5948.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
5948.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Option
Thank
one,
you.
right?
Christine Freeberg? Freiberg.
How you doing, Christine?
Tired, so I'm going to keep this brief. I will keep it brief. Only thing I wanted to say tonight was that I do appreciate that we have the coffee with the chiefs, such as the police and fire.
I love that they do
And
that.
unfortunately, Mark Denny's not here tonight. I just wanted to address if there's any possibility, if you can reserve a Saturday. I work, and I'm sure other residents would like to attend the coffee with the chiefs, and I'm one of them, and I'm sure my neighbors would like to, but because it's on a Friday, and unfortunately my boss is not as flexible on a Friday, so I was wondering if they could do like maybe one time a Saturday and see how it goes, if it's possible. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I will tell you, May 18th is the next breakfast with the Chiefs at 9 a.m. at Red Squirrel. Did I get that right, Frank? Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. Jim Acton? Yes, I'll call on Alexis Shope and Debbie Pence. Hello there, how are you? Please pull the microphone down. How are you today?
Good. I was almost hit by a car on Memory Lane when I was crossing the street to my bus stop. Because when I was walking, I only was 5 feet into the street and a car came coming out of nowhere and swerved and had to avoid hitting me. And it scared me, and I was already across the street when my Mimi came out.
What time of day did that happen?
In 7:40. At 7:40.
So it was light out when that happened? Was it on a school day or?
It was on a school day in the morning when I was going out to my bus stop.
Did the car stop, or did the car run past your school bus with the school bus lights on?
No, my school bus wasn't there yet, and I was crossing the street to get to my corner where I have to wait for my school bus to come.
That was probably very terrifying. I'm certain
Sorry you had
everyone
to go
here
through
is
that.
glad you're okay. Did you talk to the police about that at all? And
Mm-mm.
I'm sure they would like to speak with you if you can meet with the officer. Do you have a parent here with you or anything? Or
Mm-hmm.
okay, would you please take the time to talk to our officer?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have anything else, or how fast do you think that car was going?
Probably about 3 miles per hour.
And it,
Well, a little bit faster, actually.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad you were able to get out of the way, and you're a very brave young lady for coming up here in front of a room full of people to tell us that. Do you know what, I don't want to ask your address on Memory Lane, but it's on Memory Lane where the speeding was? Okay, well, thank you. I'm really glad you're all right.
Thank you for coming. I can tell you.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Speak
so
on that
much.
real quick if you don't mind. Okay. Good job. It takes a lot of courage to speak like that. That's really impressive.
Someday you'll be sitting here.
Yeah. Careful what you wish for. Do you remember the number one rule when you cross the street? What is it? Very good. You're a smart girl. Kevin, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Do you know, do we have any developments on Memory Lane and Banning? Because I know there's going to be some infrastructure issues going on there. Do you know if that's part of it by chance? It is not. Doesn't make it that far down. Yeah, with the new school district, or with the new school, I should say, there's going to be a lot of extra traffic, so they're working on a lot of stuff. So that area is definitely a hot spot right now, and I appreciate you sharing that. And we'll share that with, if I can take this time, I would like to share that with one of the school board members who I wanted to recognize, who is actually here in attendance. His name is Mark Gilbert. Thank you for being here. He was newly elected to the school board. Mark, if you're able to fill us in when you get a chance on any of, you got it written down already? Smart man. All right, that's Mark, everybody. Thanks for being here. You're sitting in the same row. You're in good company, I promise. We'll get that taken care of.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dawn Smith, please.
Good evening. Thank you for the time to speak. Hi. Once again, I'm here to speak about medical marijuana. A lot of people in Colerain Township
Want to save that for the public hearing time?
If you would like to, that's
Yeah,
fine.
I think so, because we're going to be making a decision in that. Is that the correct thing to do? Okay.
That would be a great thing to take, because we'll be taking testimony on the record. But is there something else you want to speak about in the meantime?
No.
Just that? Okay.
Just that.
Yeah, just
Yeah, we'll have we're going to have a hearing for that. So did Joseph Bealey come back? No?
Does anybody know who that is or where they went by chance? Anybody?
I'll reach out to him. I did that another time somebody wasn't here. Okay, Jim, that you would be the last one. And thank you, everybody, for keeping your remarks around 5 minutes. We're almost through, and it was just been an hour and 5 minutes since we started. So,
how you doing, Jim?
Fine. 10 people, that's not bad.
Yeah.
I know you're gonna help us stay on track.
Don't mess our numbers up here, Jim.
Dan, first, I appreciate the prayers for us veterans and those people on VA.
You know, I got to know a bunch of them in my lifetime, but sadly they've all moved on.
Many years since Colerain Township noticed anybody, and thank God 5 years ago we got the ball rolling. So I hope Chris Green, he has success with his veteran memorial too. But anyway, we'll go on. Something that I found out from Mr. Bernie Fidley, thank you, Bernie, I recognize you, you're still here. The webpage for notice of trustees meetings, I was getting them sent to my email, and as I told all three of you, and I also mentioned it, it's now in Circle. Nobody notified me or any of the other people that I know of that it was switched from being sent to us over to Circle. I thought we'd done away with Circle, and I thought we'd went with Jason and his crew. So how's it going to be coming to us?
No, those were not connected at all. Those are two separate. Circle is separate of Waycross.
I know that, but mine, Greg, came by email from the township. Now, it wasn't, this meeting tonight wasn't on there. That's why I called some people and said, where's it at?
This meeting was sent out through Circle, wasn't it?
It was through Circle, but not through the old system that I was receiving it for the last 3-4 years.
Oh, you're saying the township.
So it's now in Circle, which I know where to find it now. So anyway, but I hope that you would notify other people that it has been changed and they will not be getting it via email or however you want to call it. I'd like to thank all the voters for getting out today. Administration building over here was kind of deserted, and so far they had 102 by 2:30 this afternoon. I hope more got out, though. The gentleman here about the Laura Linda situation, and it's kind of disturbing because I still have some friends that live in Green Township. One of them moved about 10 years ago when his mother-in-law passed away. He was not on a main street a la Laura Linda and parked his mother-in-law's car in his driveway. It was there for 2 weeks. Green Township officer says, "You own that car?" And he explained, what happened, and it was up for sale. Why can't we do that? Green Township can do it. Is their laws different than Colerain Township about stuff like that? And I presume it's still that way today. This goes back 12 years ago, I think, when Dave finally left Green Township. The other situations, as I'm here to speak about miracle marijuana, we'll talk about that later. Dan, one suggestion that I'd like to offer to you. It says on here, subjects to deal with the agenda. Stick to it. We've been an hour and a half on everybody else's tangents. Sorry I threw my tangent in there, but if they want to hear what's going on in the township, tell them to stay until the end of the meeting and then voice their opinions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes the people that have requested to speak. So we will move on to the next item on the agenda, Jeff.
Very good. Thank you, Trustee Unger. We'll start today with administrative reports with Chief Frank Cook.
Good evening, Board. The first item I'd like to speak on, or report on, is the Ross Mulch fire incident that's occurred at 12,075 East Miami River Road. Just to provide you with an update, you were made aware of the situation on on Friday of last week, of the situation that actually began on Wednesday, May the 2nd. To this date, we continue to still attempt to try to extinguish the fire. The fire itself is, it involves large mulch piles and large piles of sawn trees. Essentially, it's a deep-seated fire, and it's very laborious in trying to control this fire. We're using heavy equipment supplied by the operator of the facility, but it continues to be pretty stubborn. It's a deep-seated fire. We're having trouble accessing it. The minute that we think it's under control, only the next morning, when the sun comes up, we're back at it again, trying to fight the fire. So to this date, like I said, we continue to try to fight the fire, regardless of what the social media post says. We're trying to work with the owner of the business to mitigate this situation. And tomorrow, I've got a meeting involving the state and both local EPA, Ross Township officials, because it impacts them. They get a lot of complaints about the odor and the smoke from the situation. So we'll also present a action plan in moving forward. Again, we're trying to work with the operator to try to finalize this situation. It's not threatening any properties or anything. It's just being more of a nuisance as far as the smoke and the odors are concerned. Second item I had to report on is on Thursday, May the 3rd, Mike Adler, our fleet maintenance manager, firefighter Ron Stanger, and I traveled to E1 Fire Apparatus in Ocala, Florida, to perform our final and finish inspection of the new aerial apparatus. It is complete. Like I said, our visit allowed us to do the inspection of the finished product and actually operate the vehicle, ensure that it meets our specifications in detail before it leaves the manufacturer. I'm pleased to say that we were very pleased with the finished product. So the vehicle is expected to be delivered to our dealer, which is Vocal Pool Fire Equipment, probably about the middle of next week before it arrives to us. But it is complete, and we should see the vehicle here on our property in the next couple of weeks, I would say.
Excellent.
Next item, I will report that Assistant Chief Will Mueller is being recognized by the Ohio Association of County Behavioral Health Authorities with the CARES Award in recognition for his outstanding leadership and tireless efforts in addressing and raising awareness in fighting Ohio's opiate epidemic. Chief Mueller epitomizes the qualities of an overall commitment to excellence, going above and beyond his basic duty in helping citizens in need, and believes what he is doing is making a difference in fighting the opiate epidemic, not only locally, regionally, and nationally. He will be presented with his award on June 11th at the Opiate Conference Luncheon in Columbus, Ohio. And then lastly, our emergency incident activity for the month of April. We responded to 659 emergency medical incidents, 147 fire incidents, and we responded 25 times into the Springfield Township contract area. During the months, there was 2 significant fire incidents, one that occurred on Sunday, April the 8th, 2018 in the 2500 block of Royal Glen, and then on Saturday, April 14th in the 8200 block of Livingston Road. Reported fire loss for the month was $138,200. And that's all I had to report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Denny has an excused absence this evening, and in his place, we have Lieutenant Owen.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
I have 4 items to report on. I'll start off with our April monthly stats. Overall, year-to-date, we were down 11% reduction in all crimes. Total calls for service for the month of April were 3,697 calls, 206 vehicle crashes, 45 hit-skips investigations, 314 traffic stops, resulting in 200 traffic citations, 13 OVI arrests, 182 of false intrusion alarms, 60% of all calls responded to within 5 minutes. That was down from 72 last month. 244 arrests were made, 38 criminal cases assigned to our criminal investigative unit, 16 open drug investigations assigned to our special investigative unit. We had 8 deceased persons investigations. We conducted 1 search warrant on a residence. We had 17 detective after-hour call-outs. And for overdoses for the year, we're down 43% in overdoses for the year from this time last year.
Excellent. Yeah.
Second item to report on, there have been a few questions about the CRC, which is our Community Resource Center in Groesbeck, and the purpose and intent of the building. In late 2011, the property was converted from a bar to the Community Resource Center after area residents and businesses raised $90,000 in cash and in-kind donations. The plan was to house the Family Justice Center, which it still does to this day. The center made it possible to get a grant from the YWCA to fund all operations at the CRC. In addition to this important function, the CRC is also used on other facets, including they have a police presence in the area where there's economic development plans and higher crime establishments. The center spurred the demolition of the John Rush property that were a constant source of crime. Provide a building that could house the Ohio State Patrol's data master machine, thus attracting the Ohio State troopers into our area. They are processing dozen arrests per week at the CRC. They're also patrolling and conducting traffic stops throughout Colerain Township. The Northwest School District holds drug counseling sessions at the center. And there's 2 Groesbeck neighborhood groups that use the center regularly to conduct their meetings with us, the police department. Next item, while it's very rare, we do occasionally have homeless people in Colerain Township. Their presence ranges from the soliciting of money at highway exits to sleeping under our overpasses. Our function when dealing with the homeless is multifaceted. First, we are required to enforce existing laws dealing with the trespassing and being on the interstate and right-of-way. We are required to do this. Second, we offer any assistance that we can to the person we have contact with. There's no laws against being homeless, and we cannot enforce assistance on anyone unless we have grounds to take him or her into custody. We are nearly always We are nearly always turned down for our offers for assistance. We have homeless shelters and other social service contacts at our disposal, but again, we cannot force this on anyone. Our goal is to respond to our community's calls and demands for service while respecting the rights and dignities of the homeless people we encounter, and we will continue to do both moving forward. And the last item this week is our National Police Memorial Week. This is a week of reflection to remember our fallen officers. On this Friday, May 11th, the Colerain Police Honor Guard will be representing Colerain Township at the Greater Cincinnati Police Memorial Ceremonies and Parade that will be conducting in downtown Cincinnati. That's all I have.
I have a quick question. One of the stats you mentioned was 182 false intrusion alarms. Is that the false alarm topic we were talking about at our last meeting?
Yes, sir.
Now, do those all happen in a bad weather event, or are they pretty spread out over the month?
They're pretty spread out throughout the month.
Is that-
We can narrow it down when we do have a weather event, but those are sporadic throughout the month.
Did you say that was residential and business?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. The next report will be from Mr. Kevin Schwartzoff, our Director of Public Services.
Thank you, Jeff. I just have 3 items. The first is the Clipper Park Spray Ground will open on May 26th and stay open till Labor Day. There's an action item later on in the agenda, and if you don't approve that, then it won't open on May 26th. But Memorial Day is May 28th, so at 10 a.m. we're going to have our Memorial Day ceremony down at the Gateway Memorial. And we have scheduled our Family Canoe Day from Heritage to Drayville Park. It's going to be scheduled for August 18th. I don't have an exact time yet, but I believe it's going to be at either 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. And that is it.
I didn't know that, so definitely send me more information on that. If you want, or send me an email.
I still have to work with Rivers Unlimited to get more information.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Just to be a little more specific on that, or hit that on that a little bit harder. We have wonderful parks in this community. We have beautiful parks, and I've always said they're underutilized, and certainly when funding was cut, they were not utilized at all. It was horrible. So one of the ideas we had was to do and I've floated down the river many times at Heritage Park, and then you can dock at Dravo, or you can actually pull out by the ball fields. But we partnered with, forgive me, what's the name of the company? Rivers Unlimited, yeah. So we're going to do a family canoe day. We'll get to canoe down our river. It's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. And I recommend everyone come. I think it's, I would wear a life vest if you're not a great swimmer, but depending on, the time of the year and the weather, if we had a lot of rain, there's some deep spots, but for the most part, there's some spots where you actually, you have to get out of your canoe to push it along. But it's beautiful. It's a great chance to really see our park from a different view that you may have never seen it before. So highly recommend that event. I look forward to it myself. Thank you for working on that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Schwartzoff. I have my report next, and I will do what Mr. Insko has requested and sort of go over our code enforcement process. Let me see if I can pull that back up.
And to be clear, Jeff, if the residents aren't happy with the process and they want something changed, are you also able to detail?
Yeah.
How? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, this is frustrating because you can't read it at all. But let me just sort of walk you through, and I can we'll put this out on Circle so that you can print off a copy or look at it on your computer screen. You can read it much better. But here's the long and the short of it. We have our code enforcement official is located in our Department of Planning and Zoning. That's led by Ms. LeCount, who is on extended leave, and so they're already down somebody, but they're soldiering on. They enforce 3 different laws. The first law is our zoning law. The second law is our property maintenance resolution, and the third is the Ohio Revised Code has a statute that allows us to enforce nuisance complaints. And nuisance complaints there are 2 of them. There is tall weeds and grass, and there are trash and debris. So, what's that? In this statute, it's tall grass and yeah. Okay, so right. So each one of those laws has a separate process that we have to run through, and this is very prescriptive. We don't get to make this up, and we can't cut corners because these all there are legal implications for the township if we do it wrong. We could get sued, right? So let's start with the nuisance because we're getting into tall grass season. So when you are driving down the street or when you walk out your front door and you see that there's tall grass and it's 10 inches or more, that's tall grass. It's 10 inches or higher. The first thing that I would do if I were you is jump on our website, which looks like this, right? And in the lower left-hand corner, it says there's a blue box and it says Community Gateways. And down at the bottom, it says Service Request. And you can click on that Service Request link, and it'll take you to a page that looks just like this. And what we see here are a number of green dots and a map of Colerain Township. Each one of those green dots is an open case that we are actively inspecting right now. So there are a lot, right? And we have an enormous township, 45 square miles, give or take a little bit. And so we have, nearly 60,000 individuals that live in the township. We have one, and now we have 1.5 code enforcement officers to deal with all these dots. And we haven't even gotten into the big trash and weeds season yet.
High grass, yeah.
Okay, high grass season. So, but if your neighbor has tall grass, tell us about that. You can enter in the address, and you can, in the upper right-hand corner, and you can put in your email address. And if you do that, you will get emails, just as Mr. O'Brien was able to print out and bring in today. You'll get an email that says every time we do something on that property, you'll get an email saying it's been changed. So the status has changed from new to intake to in process to citation or whatever. That's the best way to let us know, and it's also the best way to establish communication between the township and you all, because all those green dots, we can't call every single person and say, remember that when you called about the tall grass, I wanted to give you an update. So that's how we're giving updates. So if you want an update, please go to CSR, just the way I described, and enter it in. We would love for you to do that. It makes our job a lot easier. Once you do that, what happens is within we say 2 days, but if you do it on a Thursday night, it might take 4 days, right? Because we're not working on the weekends. So within at most 4 days, our code enforcement officer is going to go out and inspect the property. If it's taller than 10 inches, he's going to put a bright orange sticker on your door. And everybody's going to be able to see that bright orange sticker. He's going to come back 7 days later. That's required by Ohio Revised Code. We have to post notice and then come back 7 days later, and he's going to see if it's still 10 inches. Now it's probably 12 inches because it's been a week, right? So as soon as he comes back and re-inspects, and it's 12 inches now, he then puts that address on a nuisance abatement resolution. And we're gonna hopefully pass one of those tonight. When that is on the nuisance abatement resolution, we then give all of those addresses to a contractor who goes out and cuts their grass. Once the grass is cut, that's scheduled by contract to happen within 7 days. We then assess the cost that the township incurred by paying that contractor and an administrative fee to the property's taxes. Okay? And then in a perfect world, the people who didn't cut their grass do pay their taxes, and in the next year, we recoup that money back. So that's the process for tall weeds and grass, and that's the process for trash and debris. That's one process for trash and debris. Okay. And so in a perfect world, that's a 39-day process, right? So that's slow, and that's frustrating, right? Because the whole time you're sitting there looking at the grass, and it's still growing, and it's still annoying you. But it's also annoying us, but that's prescribed by law. We can't make that any shorter. So just 1 second. So that's nuisance. Property maintenance is a separate resolution that has its own process laid out in that resolution. The way that works is you go to CSR, you type in the address, you give us the service request. Within 4 days, we're going to at most 4 days, we're going to get out and inspect the property. Now with this, we don't put a big orange sticker because that's not what the law says we do. With this one, we have to serve them with a notice of violation. Okay, and what that means is we have to send them a certified letter that has the notice of violation. And when I say them, I mean the owner of the house, right? Not the occupant if it's a rental, it's the owner. So we have to find the owner and we have to serve them with a notice of violation. That, in a perfect world, it's a week, right? But if somebody decides I'm not going to sign for this certified letter, then it takes a month because the post office has to go back and try to deliver it 3 times before it comes back to us in our office. Right, so we just got one back today, for example, that we sent on April 11th, and we just got it back from the post office saying it's undeliverable. So now what we do is we have to send a first-class letter and once we send the first-class letter, we consider it served. We've done our due diligence and that we were required to do. Okay, so then we consider it served. Now that starts the clock again for a reinspection. As soon as it's served, with property maintenance, folks can have up to 60 days to fix that property maintenance issue. Okay, it ranges. Not all property maintenance issues, but some property maintenance issues. So it could be 60 days after that date of service, right? And that's why, Mr. O'Brien, when you were talking about, is it a 6-month process? Unfortunately, it can be. It depends on on what the violation is and on how easy it is to get service. Okay, so after that, we reinspect it, and if the problem hasn't been resolved, then we send it to Larry's team, and they file a complaint affidavit and summons and take it to Hamilton County Housing Court, thus beginning another very long, painful process, right? So then we get a court date, and then we go down, and the guy, as I was talking with Ms. Dakin today about a problem property in Northbrook, then the guy doesn't show up. If he doesn't show up, he gets a capias issued to him. That means that there is a warrant out for his arrest. And if he gets pulled over or something like that, he gets cited back to court. And eventually, he gets to court, and the judge says, you got to fix it. And if he doesn't, then eventually, as was the case on Springdale Road, somebody brought that up today, Mr. Fidelday, we can get a judgment from the judge. And at one point, we had an $800,000 judgment on that property. So that is the property maintenance process. And so that 72 days that's up there is the amount of time that it typically takes to get to housing court. Once it gets into housing court, we don't control the housing court docket. We're just grateful that they have one, and we that is then turned over to our legal team, and they prosecute that along with our code enforcement official. Very similar process for zoning. Okay, it's just a condensed timeline because you only have 21 days to resolve a zoning violation once you've been served with it. But that process doesn't end with us doing anything. That process, like going onto your property and fixing the zoning violation, that process ends in housing court. So those are the three laws that the township enforces through its code enforcement. Like I had mentioned, up until last January, we had 0 code enforcement officers. Then we had 1, and then we have 1.5 during the busy season. So right now is the busy season. Until the grass stops growing in November this year, we will have 1.5 people hustling all of these cases. And so I just wanted to put that out there so that everybody has a good understanding of the process. Does that answer your question?
Does that answer the residents' questions? Residents, anyone have a question about this process? Oh, we've got 2 good ones. What do you say we call them to the mic?
Are you done with your presentation?
I'm done with my presentation, but I still had more for my administrative report.
Go ahead.
Okay, so
take that as a second question towards the end of the meeting, because there's people here waiting to testify on the other issue.
Very good. Okay, so the contracts that were signed this month included $1,145 to Silco for the installation of a security camera. Cincinnati State EMT program, I signed a contract that actually saves us a bucket of money, but requires us to spend $4,072 for our partnership with them to produce the EMT program. I signed a contract for $3,788.17 to T. Lucky & Sons for the purpose of slabjacking Newberry Acres Drive, and one with Mobilecom for $2,382.16 to improve access control in our basement. I wanted to underline briefly the incredible achievement that Chief Mueller has been leading in our fire department. I received another email just this week from a representative in Tennessee. They would like to model their state's response to the opioid crisis on our QRT, and they're going to be coming up in the coming weeks to meet with Chief Mueller and learn how we do it here in Colerain Township. We are a national model for our opiate response, and I'm incredibly proud of that. I also wanted to underline 3,000 calls for service to our police department last month. That is an incredible number. I mean, we have it's an incredible number, and I'm so grateful for the hardworking men and women in our police department and fire department. Finally, this is an exciting piece to end on. A gentleman named Milton Blurch came into our office last week. He's from Green Township, but he donated a map of Colerain Township to the township. He said that this framed print came from his parents' home, who migrated here from Germany and bought a house with 7 acres in Colerain in 1952. He shared how desolate the area was back then and how he thought the map should be part of our history and shared with our residents. He would appreciate it if it was hung in the senior center, and I fully intend to do that. But it's a really beautiful map, and it sort of has all of the old owners from back in the day when the township was first surveyed. So I thought that was beautiful, and we'll be sure to hang that in the senior center. So thank you, Mr. Blurch.
Yes, thank you.
And that's my report for this.
Thank you.
Jeff, I want to affirm that I go to many opiate heroin addiction conference all over the state, the country. They always mention about Colerain.
Yeah.
How great they're doing. They want to follow your model. I just want to commend your wonderful service in following up on the opiate heroin addiction in Colerain Township.
Thank you.
Amen.
And with that, Raj, do you want to go first on the trustees' report?
Sure.
Well, I've got an agenda, and I want to get I've got people here to speak on the marijuana issue, and we've got a second opportunity to ask questions that's in the agenda, and there's some folks here that want to speak to that other issue, so I want to keep this moving along. So, Raj, go ahead.
Thank you, Dan. Last meeting, I mentioned about meeting ODOT, about the Colerain Avenue improvement. I met with the ODOT administrators, the project directors, a couple of weeks ago, and told them you need to have a kind of plan, study how to improve the Colerain Avenue. Colerain Avenue is getting pretty bad. We all know that traffic is bad, accidents and everything. But a couple of days ago, they sent me that email, which I'll be sharing with our Public Works Director and Police Department, what are the plans they have for the Colerain Avenue. And they sent me in the 2018, I got a whole bunch of pages, their plan. I don't know if I got time to read all that. I'll just highlight. 2018, they're going to replace all the signals in Colerain Avenue. It'll be like radar signals. See, right now they have the signals lights function. You will have all green light when traffic goes on the pavement. They put it under the pavement. Now they're going to put the radar signals on the top of the signal lights. If the traffic is flowing, if there are no cars crossroads, there will have green lights all the way. It's censored by the radars, so which they're going to put it everywhere. There won't be no on the pavement signal lights, which control the traffic lights. And the next project they're going to do, 2019, they're going to revamp the 275 bridge, which is deck overlay, the bearing reset, and replace all this concrete and everything. I was suggesting at the time we're talking about put a new signage on the Colerain Avenue signage on the 275 bridge, just like one they have in the Green Township. And a few meetings ago, they brought some pictures and everything. I think they will attract more to the Colerain and boost the image of the Colerain Township. And what they're going to do after that, they're going to enhance that whole Colerain Avenue with added sidewalks. Okay, they're going to do all the sidewalks. And there's some concerns there in Colerain Avenue. Northbound Colerain Avenue at the Redskin Drive, the traffic spilling out of left turn lane to go into the Stone Creek development and blocking the through lane. So what they're going to do, ODOT completed a work order to install do not block through lanes sign and extend the length of the left turn lane with the recent surfacing project. Same thing, they're going to do southbound Colerain Avenue at the Stone Creek Boulevard, traffic spilling out of left turn lane to go into Hobby Lobby development, blocking the through lane. So what would extend the length of the left turn lane with the recent surfacing project. And another problem they have, you probably noticed that the Mike's Car Wash place, southbound, the left turn, there's a potential there's a lot of accidents happening. What they're going to do, they either remove that left turn lane, get the direct lane, go to Compton Road to access to the Compton Road or Pool Road to Mike Car Wash place. If you ever been the Mike Car Wash place, try to turn left, it's very dangerous. There's potential for a lot of accidents. There's so many things they send me. I'll post it on the in the website. You can read that. They really go to help us to improve the Colerain Avenue. And another project they also say whenever we do what Laura said, the cleanup project, they're going to send the street cleaner all over the Colerain Avenue, and they're ready for the date. I may talk to them about June. You were talking about. That's one thing. The Colerain Avenue is going to be, it's going to be improving the traffic, everything. Second thing I mentioned about the last meeting, we're going to extend the juvenile court. So more, the juvenile court magistrate will come here to hear that all the citations the police issue on the juveniles, and they will have a hearing here. On the return, these kids who committed the crime, they had to do the community service in the local. There's two purposes. One purpose, they're punished because you terrorize this township or the neighborhood, you're going to pay back. And also it gives a signal to the other kids who are trying to do the same thing. It's kind of deterring factor for them. That's I'm got a meeting with the juvenile court judge on May 14th, 10 o'clock. We're going to set up a court, and Chief, I'm going to take Chief with me. So these are the projects we're going to working on it. I'm also with Jeff we talked about this in the meeting. A lot of concerns I'm hearing about this. People are now coming up speaking about what's going on in the neighborhood. And this neighborhood, we should not let it happen like this. We got to come up with a plan. How are you going to help these people live there for years and years, and they're afraid to come out, afraid that they used to, like I said earlier, even the children, they won't even invite the grandchildren, because they're either scared or ashamed. And I think that we have to do everything possible to make this township possible.
Thank you, Raj. Okay. Thank you, Raj. Greg, would you like to go next?
Sure. All right. I hope everyone got out and exercised their right to vote earlier. I'm grateful for the men and women who gave their all to give us that right. There are a few people here that were running for positions in the community, so I want to wish you all best of luck. I want to say this. I am so excited to see the new Kroger's coming along. There's a giant new housing complex, and of course all these new schools. So hats off to the past and current school board members for all their hard work on that. These are extremely exciting times to be living in the township. Our property values are the highest they've been. Houses are selling at an incredible pace. Our senior center, our parks are all being utilized. Colerain is thriving, and I could not be more proud of that. I'm just so proud to live here, and I hope everyone makes the most of our assets. So with that being said, let me get through citizens' address questions real quick. Tom doesn't look like he's here anymore. I didn't know that not having a house number was a code violation, to be honest with you. But I do remember a few years ago when I was going door to door, I carried a set of stickers with me so that if someone didn't have a house number, I could put one on for them. Because the reality is, Frank will be the first to tell you this, seconds equal lives. If you don't have your house number clearly visible or on there at all, and you have an emergency, it's going to take longer to find it. That's just the nature of the beast. So I would highly encourage everyone to make sure that they and their neighbors, friends, family, anyone, has house numbers on the front of their house. If not, let us know, and we'll be more than happy to try to get you some one way or another. Let's see here. Bob, Larry, can you speak to the redaction for Bob? I don't know if he's still here. I don't see him, actually.
The entries on the legal bills are protected by the attorney-client privilege, and that's regardless of what they're for. So, and there's a fair amount of case law that, makes that very clear. So when we submit the bills through the public records response, we take out what the entries are as to what was done. And that's important. People have a right to privacy. Some of the entries would have people's names in them. They tell exactly what we're doing. If somebody were suing us, it would give them a leg up in filing a lawsuit against us, perhaps. There's a lot of reasons why we don't want to divulge that information. But first and foremost, it's protected by the attorney-client privilege.
Okay, thank you very much. Benita, I have no doubt you're doing everything you can. I mean, there's obviously strength in numbers, and it sounds like you've been doing a great job of networking and communicating with your neighbors, so just keep that up. I would definitely like for you to meet with, obviously the chief's not here, but Lieutenant privately, and maybe we can speed you up on some of the investigation. Obviously, some of that stuff we have to hold tight to our chest. Capstan's another one. That's a big one. I cannot wait until we have, some movement we can talk about on that. It's a national news story at this point. There's no getting around it. Obviously, homicides don't make our community look good. We're very fortunate we don't have many homicides in this community. So there are certain things you have to keep tight to your chest, and I don't know the specific investigation you're talking about, if that's something that we can or can't speak to, but I would like you to meet with the lieutenant or the police chief and see what they can tell you, and just stay proactive. Persistence is everything. I don't know how many people in life that got anything without being persistent. So good job on that. Thank you. Laura, thank you for speeding me up on some of those dates. I didn't have a couple of those dates in my notes, so I appreciate that. Christine, Saturday mornings, that's really up to them. These guys put in a lot of hours above and beyond. And, I think just as a human being, it's nice to have weekends off. But if they could make a Saturday morning, obviously I would be in complete support of that, once in a blue moon or whatnot. But I totally understand if they can't, especially two of them. If one can, that's great too. But it is hard to coordinate sometimes with these schedules. But that's a good suggestion, so thank you for that. Debbie on Memory Lane, what I'm going to do is, where did Debbie go? I thought I saw, she left, didn't she? Bless her heart. And that little girl's cute as can be. I'm going to call Patrick Quinn and see if he can do an extra patrol there. Does anybody remember what time she said that was? 7 a.m.? 7:40 a.m. 7. Wow. It's good to know there are people here paying attention. Holy moly.
Everybody but you, Greg.
Yeah, wake me up if I fall asleep. Holy moly. Yeah, so 7:40 a.m. We'll get an extra patrol out there, and hopefully, the one thing that a lot of people don't understand, and I get these calls a lot, if we have somebody that's speeding through your neighborhood, I get these calls all the time. Oh, they're blowing through a stop sign, they're speeding my neighborhood, blah, blah. If there's a particular time that you notice that seems to be occurring, now, we just, I wish we had the manpower to sit an officer at every person's, intersection and prevent these things, but it's just not realistic right now. Maybe someday, if we get more officers, that can be more realistic, but right now it's not. So if when we request these extra patrols, if you know about what time it's occurring, for example, I had a great one not too long ago. After school, it seemed like there was a lot of people blowing through this lady's stop sign, so we sent out an extra patrol. And next thing I know, I get a call from parents upset that their kid got pulled over for blowing through stop signs. Well, guess what? Don't speed. So anyway, if you know of a specific time that we can request that extra patrol, let me know, and I can contact Patrick Quinn, or you can. He is amazing. He really is a great employee. Jim Acton, thank you for your input. I also want to say hi to Janice, because I know she's watching at home with her kid, right, Jeff? Oh, boy. And then I want to piggyback off of something Raj was saying about our ramps needing enhanced. Boy, he hit the nail on the head on that one. Our ramps are just, there's no nice way to say it, they're ugly. I would love to, Kevin, do you have an update on the landscaping thing by chance?
I've got, yes.
You've got that later or now? Or do you
No,
want
I can let you know. We did a RFQ, request for qualifications. We received one response back.
Wow.
And it was from Kleiningers. And so just as soon as I get a hot minute to put an email together to you guys, I'm going to include that. And so what we need to do next is identify the scope that you, first, we have to identify the scope, and we have to think about budget, and we need to work through that, because this was not a budgeted expense this year. Maybe it's something that we look to budget for next year, if that's what you guys want to do. So, at least we know now that we have one response that's interested in working on this project, and we'll take it to the next step.
Thank you. This is a very conservative community, but it costs money to look good and all those fun things. So I can't wait to get that back. And Raj, are you able to comment? Did they say anything about burying utilities in that email you got or anything? Burying the underground, because they did it.
All the work. No, they're going to do all the complete work.
Did they give a date on that or a timeline or anything?
No, just for the year.
Yeah, I have to be honest. It was like a night and day difference when I was driving up and down Colerain when the day after they took down a lot of those unnecessary poles because the utilities are buried right there at Colerain Springdale. Boy, it looked amazing. It was like, wow, welcome to the 21st century, Colerain.
Yeah, so that was a township project, and we spent about $1.2 million on that project to bury those utilities. Yeah. And I don't believe that ODOT is going to be burying utilities in this project. So I just wanted to clarify that, because that's a very, very, very expensive thing to do.
Yeah.
Is it that's a ODOT property? So that anything connected with the US 27 is a Ohio, Department of Transportation property.
But I just don't want to set the expectation that ODOT is going to bury utilities, take the overhead utilities and put them underground. I don't think that they're going to do that.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Benita.
I'll check into it.
Yeah, because it's
no. I know. He's going above and beyond. I appreciate that.
That was a clear expectation. I don't want to set up people's expectations.
I'm fast. Good on that. Okay, and let's see here. I want to thank Jeff for sending out all the CIC members pre-recorded webinars. I watched 2 of them so far, and I know Stephanie did at least 1 as well. So thanks for sending those out. I also want to recognize Marlon Ford. She told me the other day she's been coming to these meetings for 40 years. So yeah, she's seen it all in that time, right, Marlon? Yeah. Oh, 30? A couple decades. Give or take a decade. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. Before this government complex was built, they were, I double-checked this for you, they were in the senior center up here. So thank you for being involved for all these years. I appreciate that. I also want to, again, recognize Mark Gilbert, new school board member, for coming here. I'm sorry I haven't been to any of your school board meetings. They're at the same time when I teach, so forgive me for that, but I appreciate you being here. I want to say congrats to the Colerain Historical Society's new trustee for building and grounds. That would be Gary Henson. I don't think Gary's here, though. I see Chris. The Toll House, this group never seems to fail to amaze me. Their dedication, their attention to detail is unbelievable. The Toll House spring cleaning is planned. Toll gate will be installed. New steps, a ramp will be placed at the front door. Special thanks again to Jeffrey Allen for handling the landscaping issues at the Toll House. There are a lot of volunteers that are needed for the spring cleaning starting now. So if anybody's can lend an extra hand, they're always appreciative. I want to congratulate the 41st class of the Citizens Police Academy. Hopefully Chad doesn't go around in the COP car trying to pull people over, because he can't do that. But congrats to all of them. That's an awesome program that I recommend everyone get involved with. We also have a Citizens Fire Academy as well. Do you know when the date is for that by chance? Next one? Plenty of time then. Okay, perfect. Well, we'll let everyone know when that comes around. All right, finally, get your calendars out. May 12th at 7 p.m. is the Colerain PD's Bunko Night. It's $10 at the Senior Center. May 17th from 5 to 7 is the third Thursday networking event at the Vincolay. It's free for the Colerain Chamber members. The Chamber provides appetizers, but you're responsible for drinks, and RSVP is required. May 18th is Breakfast with the Chiefs again, 9 a.m. at Red Squirrel. May 19th is Colerain and Northwest High School graduation, so congrats to all of our local graduates. May 19th is Armed Forces Day. The Colerain's Veterans Memorial Benefit will be from 1 to 10 p.m. at the American Legion Hall at 513 at 7947 Hamilton Avenue. May 22nd is the Northwest Mighty Knights cheer registration at Pleasant Run Middle School cafeteria from 6:30 to 8. They're registering girls pre-K through 6th grade during the 18 and 19 school year. May 28th is our Memorial Day celebration at 10 a.m. at the Gateway in front of Northgate Mall. June 2nd at 9 a.m. is Northbrook's Giving Tree event. Did anyone have any events that I missed they wanted me to announce by chance? Any events, anyone? Only once, twice? Sold. Thank you. I'd also like to, sombering, I'd like to pass along some condolences since the last meeting. We lost a really caring resident, Lorna Flowers, very, very kind lady. I spoke to her many times on the phone. We also lost Don, unfortunately. He served as a fleet mechanic assistant for 8 years, is that right? Something like that. for our fire and EMS department. I know he's greatly missed over there. And then, unfortunately, sadly, the 24th of this month is the 1-year anniversary of Gary Lauer passing away. You guys, I don't know if you got to know him, but he had an infectious smile. The guy was an awesome hard worker, great employee, great friend to everyone, and just one of those things that what makes you count your blessings, that's for sure. So with that being said, I always make myself available anytime any resident wants to talk. And just ending on a high note here, I want to wish everyone a happy early Mother's Day. So thank you all very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I'll keep my remarks very short. I've certainly enjoyed this work as I get into my 5th month here. As I've said every month, my personal cell phone number is on the Township website. I've been able to respond to every single person who's called me, and I get several calls a week. There's one lady over off of Ben Hill that I still need to catch up with, but I do enjoy the work. And I really appreciate the opportunity that people have given me to serve. And with that, we'll go on to the next item, Jeff.
Very good. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing on a zoning map amendment case, ZA 2018-1, and it relates to a text amendment, rather, that prohibits the cultivation, processing, and retail dispensation of medical marijuana. There is a lengthy staff report that was prepared by Marty Kohler, who's our senior planner in our planning and zoning department. I'm not going to go over every word of this staff report because folks that are interested can read that on their own. But to hit some important points here, in August of 2017, the Township Trustees adopted Resolution 3817, which imposed a 1-year moratorium. And that was actually an extension of a previous 1-year moratorium. So we have been, these uses have been in moratorium for a long period of time. Moratoriums can't go on forever. They typically terminate at which time we decide how we want to move forward. And so the staff is proposing the prohibition of these uses in our township. And I think it's important to remember that we're not saying that if it's legalized, if medical marijuana is allowed to be used, that you can't use it here. What we're saying is the institutions that produce and cultivate and process and sell it can't be located here. So you could drive, if North College Hill has a dispensary, you could drive to North College Hill and purchase your legally prescribed or recommended medical marijuana. So it's a pretty simple, cut and dry text amendment. The way zoning laws work is they identify different types of uses and in what parts of town those uses are permitted and not permitted. And this very simply defines medical marijuana and then prohibits it in all zoning districts. So at this time, the process here tonight will be to open. You all will make a motion to open up the public hearing. Mr. Barbier will swear in those who would like to give testimony on the record. Once everybody's had a chance to talk about it, you'll make a motion to close public hearing, and then you'll deliberate, and that can include asking questions, or it could just include making a motion. At the end of this process, my recommendation is to adopt a resolution that is in your trustee packet that modifies our zoning resolution to prohibit these uses. So at this time, if you'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
I would motion that we open a public hearing to discuss this issue.
I'll second Dan's motion.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Inscombe?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye, and our public hearing is opened.
Well, everyone is going to give testimony in the public hearing. Please stand and raise your right hand.
Is there a court reporter here?
No.
Why are we doing this then?
Because, what do you mean, why are we doing this?
If there's no court reporter.
The thing's being
You need
taped.
to be sworn in order to give testimony. Besides that, we're making, that's the law.
Bernie.
Well, if you don't want to stand, if you don't want to stand.
I'll do it, but I question what you're doing. I've never done it before in my life.
Okay, let's go ahead and move forward.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Great, thanks.
Larry, I do have 3 people that filled out forms to speak to that, so at your pleasure, should I call on these three first?
Yes.
Dawn Smith.
Save the best for first, right?
Because you know my heart is, this is such a topic that I'm so torn in because I've always been against drugs. When it comes to medical marijuana, and I'm begging Colerain Township and our residents to understand, we are talking about medical. We're not talking about cannabis. The kids sell a dime, $20, gram, whatever the amount is. We're not talking about that. We're talking about medicinal use. This is not marijuana that is high in the THC. Nobody's going to get euphoric. We're not going to bring in all these druggies from around, the areas to buy this very expensive medical marijuana. The street game will still be going on in the streets, so I warn the police and the fire department, that's not going to change. That's not the clientele for medical marijuana. Medical marijuana is for people who are extremely ill. Too many of my patients over the years as a nurse, people I know now that are at home, pretty much homebound, that don't come out to meetings like this because they don't want to be shunned by society. They just want to quietly go to the store and purchase the medicine, the medical use of marijuana so that they can live a quality of life far better than they have right now. And I have given my word to these people that I would stand for medical marijuana when the time came. So against all the drugs, which I'm still against drug activity and I always will be, I'm asking Colerain Township, please don't leave these people out. There are thousands of residents here in Colerain Township who will use medical marijuana, and they want to be respected. They want people to know they don't have to go to Dr. Jones down the street once a month to get a pill that's going to get them addicted. I don't want to be addicted. I can't tell you that I'm going to use medical marijuana. I haven't made that choice yet. For me personally, I'd say no right now. It scares me. But my alternatives scare me as well. I like my liver. It likes me so far, and I want to keep it that way. But for the thousands of residents here in Colerain, and there are thousands of them, I'm asking you please, the retail sales of medical marijuana is for this purpose only, medical use. Let them have a better quality of life and include them into Colerain Township that we're all so zealous about, a good place to live. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker would be Michael Enderhees. No, I'll take the three that signed in, and then we'll have the other ones that were sworn in can speak.
Good evening, Board.
Mike.
Good evening.
As Mr. Mills indicated, he did a great job explaining kind of how we got to this point. When the moratoriums were originally passed, the most recent one being August of last year, the rules and regulations had not yet been finalized. The reason the moratoriums were put in place is because it was obviously not a final decision. Anytime you have a moratorium, you can lift that moratorium and then make a decision about how you want to proceed. Because it was a one-year moratorium doesn't mean, obviously, that you had to wait the year. Once the rules and regulations were put in place, the plan of the board at the time, we had mentioned having a town hall in January of this year. After the board changed, obviously with the new members, I know that it didn't happen, and it would have taken a lot to make that happen quickly as you were becoming acclimated to your new position. But with that being said, I've spoken before you guys once before on this back in February, so you know how I feel about it, and also my reason for being here. During my time as trustee, I had multiple people approach me quietly that they did want safe access to medical marijuana in Colerain. I felt that I owed it to them to stand up here and say it. Some people have put rumors out there about me working for some lobbyist. I want to dispel any of those rumors so that you know that that's not what I'm here for. And then getting back to February, there was mention that there was a fear kind of from staff that the federal government would step in and enforce federal law on marijuana and medical marijuana programs. Since then, it's become more clear than ever that the federal government will not interfere with any state programs involving marijuana, and that's medical and also recreational now at this point. In 2018, Congress gave Attorney General Jeff Sessions $0 to enforce federal law on state medical marijuana programs and also state recreational. But as Don indicated, we're not talking about recreational here. We're talking about marijuana for medicinal purposes. In addition to that, President Trump, I believe it was after meeting with a Colorado legislator, his administration announced that they would not interfere at all. So despite Attorney General Jeff Sessions' personal opinion on the matter, it didn't matter, because at the end of the day, the Trump administration is saying we're not going to go after these state programs, and Congress is saying you can't because we're not giving you any money to do so. So at this point, I think that any fear that the federal government would interfere it's not based on reality. Another fear that you hear from people who oppose medical marijuana businesses is a concern about a cash business. But if you look, you can see that as of January of 2017, there were 340 financial service providers who were banking marijuana businesses. Oftentimes, these are credit unions, obviously, who will do that. By October of last year, it rose to over 400. So these businesses are not just having to keep all the cash on hand anymore. It's not happening like that. There's also a thought that medical marijuana dispensaries will lead to increased crime rates in surrounding areas. So admittedly, I had to look into that. And I did find some studies that were done, obviously, in states that already have these medicinal marijuana programs. One of those was out of L.A. The L.A. police chief asked his department to produce a report comparing the robbery rates of L.A. banks and medical marijuana dispensaries. The report showed that there were 71 robbery reports at the dispensaries. I'm sorry, I was wrong. There were 71 robbery reports at the banking facilities, and there was 350 of these banks. So you have 350 banks with 71 robberies, and you had over 800 dispensaries with 47 robberies. So substantially less robberies at the medical dispensaries, despite the fact that there's a lot more, over twice as many dispensaries as banks. Denver Police Department also had a study, and they found that robbery and burglary rates at dispensaries were lower than area banks and liquor stores and on par with those of pharmacies. Specifically, the report found a 17% burglary and robbery rate for dispensaries, equal to that of pharmacies. It's lower than the 20% rate for liquor stores and the 34% rate for banks. Denver also did a study to find out the effects on surrounding areas of dispensaries. During the first 9 months in 2010, the crime was down 8% relative to the same period in 2009. So the decrease in crime, though, it's important to note out, it matched with the city's overall drop in crime. So it wasn't that you put a medical marijuana dispensary in and crime drops. It was that the numbers were the same. Whether you had the medical marijuana dispensary in this area of town or not, it didn't affect crime rates at all. I think it's also important to remember that under the rules and regulations in the current law, that in Hamilton County you're looking at a maximum of 3 dispensaries throughout the entire county. So realistically, I mean, I know that some other communities have banned dispensaries or cultivation or processors, but realistically, you're likely looking at a maximum of 1 dispensary in Colerain Township. You know, for a lot of people, this is a political issue, it's a security issue, but to patients, it's truly a health issue. There are many sick people who could benefit from safe access to medical marijuana. I would hope that your vote would reflect how our community as a whole feels about access to medical marijuana. I did look at some polls. There was 85% of registered voters support medical marijuana. So I assume that if somebody supports medical marijuana, they obviously support access to it, because what's the point in supporting medicine but not supporting the access to it? After the February meeting when the ban started, I did take to social media just to kind of get a sense of how people feel. I realize it's not scientific to do a poll on Facebook, but I did throw something out there just to see what type of interest, if any, there was on the issue in our community. It was on a neighborhood page, and there was over 1,000 comments, and about 84% of people said that they support access to marijuana, medical marijuana in Colerain. So I would just ask the board to have some sympathy for people who do suffer from chronic illnesses and who could benefit from access to medical marijuana.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Rachel McKinney. I didn't have my mic on. That's Rachel. I didn't have my microphone turned on. Sorry about that. No, we'll call on you next, Barney.
Hi, Rachel.
I'll be brief because
Take your
I
time.
definitely couldn't have said it any better than Mike and Don did. But I think the issue here is empathy. And I'm sure everyone in this room has been affected by someone who's had cancer. When I was a freshman in high school, my cousin came down with cancer. And the chemo was debilitating. To watch somebody die in front of you, plus be sick on top of it, was heart-wrenching. And he made the decision to stop chemo treatments and obtain medical marijuana illegally at the time, because this was quite a few years ago. He was a school teacher. He was a phys ed teacher, well-respected phys ed teacher. But he had to make a decision that was in the best interest of his health, and also seeing what it was doing to his family to have to take care of him when he was that sick off of the chemo that was supposed to extend his life for 6 months, what have you. I think that there is a claim of ignorance, and not a negative connotation to the word ignorance, but the true meaning of the word, that people don't understand the benefit of medical marijuana. If you've watched any of the, detailed documentaries on CNN about the benefits of medical marijuana and what it's doing for patients who are having seizures, little kids that are having hundreds and hundreds of seizures a week, they take this CBD oil and it's down to less than 10. That's improving quality of life, and that's why I say it's an empathy issue. I don't think it's a drug issue. Unfortunately, I've been very busy at work, so I didn't have the time to look up the exact facts of how long can this moratorium last. I know you said there's a limit on how long, but how long? Can we exhaust that first before we take this next step? Because I know it was said that once you make the text amendment, it's easy to change it back. Well, how easy is it going to be if you guys aren't here in however many years and you guys say, oh, well, we will if, it's legalized, but then the next board comes in and says, no, we're totally against it. And it's a political thing. It's not a quality of life thing. It's not, it's down to politics when it says, oh, well, my political beliefs say that I'm against this and that's what it's going to be. So I don't believe that changing something like a text amendment and then just saying it's that much easier to change it back is true. Because we've seen things where one board says they'll do one thing and then another board says, no, we didn't agree to that, that wasn't us. The size of this township and denying access to the 60,000 residents, I'm not saying all of them are going to be licensed carrier or card holders, but we're ignoring such a large population, and it's a population that you guys represent. I would be devastated to see people have to leave this township because they can only take a bus because they're on Social Security and they have stage 4 cancer and they can't get to a dispensary. And last but not least, I know people who live in Michigan. This has been very successful in Michigan. They've even actually tightened their laws a little bit recently. But I know a guy who has a broken back. If it wasn't for medical marijuana, he could not walk. He could not contribute to society by having a full-time job and paying taxes. These aren't people that are going to be running around stoned out of their minds. A lot of the drugs that are used for seizure patients have about 1% THC in it. So I just ask that before you make a decision like this, you truly educate yourself, dig in deep, do a little bit of, self-education on the matter. I truly respect the opinions of, Hamilton County Zoning Commission and the chief and everyone like that, and everybody has an opinion. But I don't think you can truly vote on something like this without doing a little research yourself and being fully informed. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bernie, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I did.
First of all, I don't believe I'm against medical marijuana. I just don't think it belongs in Colerain Township. That's my own opinion. We have enough not so good things, check placing places, pawn shops, place now to sell your blood. I mean, how's that help our community? I think that the thing is, though, I did a little homework, and I don't know if you all did or not. I've collected enough stuff here that's pretty pertinent, I think. Now, Mike is promoting it for two resolutions, though he didn't promote it. He voted not to have the medical marijuana here. And what I said at the last meeting is just like our prosecutor, Joe Dieters, he chased the marijuana, meaning trying to get it passed in 2015, and he was chasing the money. And I think that's exactly what Mike's doing right now, is chasing the money, because he didn't bring up anything other than chase the money, because he voted against it twice. Here's the resolutions right here, both of them.
Let Bernie go ahead and speak. It says a small number of medically accepted studies, a small number, has shown marijuana appears to be an effective treatment for chronic pain, nausea, symptoms of multiple sclerosis. It goes on to say the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine warned of dangers from marijuana use and increased risk of car crashes, lower birth rate, babies, problems with memory and attention. It found strong connections between cannabis use and the development of schizophrenia and other psychosis. That's not us. I mean, we don't control that. The state controls that. It's, do we want that in our community, I guess. It says this gives Denny Curries pause, an addiction expert and chief scientific officer at Recovery Centers of America. This is a person that's got some credibility. She does object to the industry that's sprung up around pot filled with people who evangelize the plant's benefits without scientific backing. That's exactly what we're hearing tonight. No scientific backing, just, oh, we want it. And you think that's all they're going to use it for, is medical? I don't think so. There's only 5 area doctors are among the 36 physicians statewide who have who've been approved to recommend medical marijuana to their patients. 5 in Hamilton County. There's thousands of doctors, and only 5 of them decided to step up to say, hey, we'll
will recommend it. They don't write script, they just recommend it merely. There's up to 57 dispensary licenses that are expected to be granted sometime next month. There's 88 counties. When I start talking about there's going to be 3 of them in Hamilton County, and yet only 57 out of 80 and 88 counties in the whole state, I think that's probably a pipe dream. I heard this down on Spring Grove Avenue. I heard there's going to be a big grow site down there, and that will probably be the main place that they would grow it, I expect. I just don't see the benefit to have that in our community, because what follows next? They've already got plans in the works to get the recreational, if you want to call it that, on the ballot. They tried to get it this year and missed. They're going to get it next year or the year after. And are you telling me that there's going to be different dispensaries for recreational and medical? I think not. Do we want the recreational here? People laying around smoking a pot? You really want that? I don't think we do. At least I don't hope we don't. Here's a little study right here. This is from the Department of Health and Human Services, a real little deal. Americans said in 2016 study, 24 million Americans said they used cannabis in the past 30 days, primarily for 90% recreational uses, 10% medical. So there is somebody using it for that, but the vast majority of it, 90% of it, is going to be for the potheads. Let's face it. So think about it when you make your decision. They're part of it. Under Ohio's medical marijuana law, employers can prohibit the use of marijuana by workers, discipline workers for using a drug, and refuse to hire applicants that if they do use it. Workers fired for using marijuana probably wouldn't receive unemployment benefits. If they were hurt on the job while under the influence, probably wouldn't receive workers' comp either. It's all real stuff. It's not just made up like some people are making up stuff. They said there's 6,000 pedestrians been killed the past year. A lot of them, as they were killed by motor vehicles, but not car crashes, just by getting hit. And some of it was said that, distraction behind the wheel, texting while walking, and even marijuana, like legalization, has been tagged for potential culprits in the research. Just like people are walking out in the street with their text, they're not focused, but marijuana is part of the problem too. I hope that isn't making you guys all sad. Some of the other businesses around here, or communities around here, said absolutely not. Liberty Township for one, Westchester's another one. These are successful communities, so why would they, if it's such a hot deal, why wouldn't they say, hey, we want that? Why can't we start thinking about what's best for the community and our tax base as far as our property values? I heard people say, well, it creates jobs. What do we get out of a job if we have somebody here? There's full employment, thanks to Mr. Trump. We don't get an income tax. So what's the point? Everybody says, well, we're going to create jobs. What do you get out of it? Somebody come here and take our money and go home. We don't get anything. To create the real jobs, though, is to have people that work, live, and play here, not people that just come here and take our money and leave. We need people that do something for us, that they also keep the money here. I'm looking at you, Jim, when I say that, Jeff. You know that. Then one of the last things I want to say is Ohio's hoping to vote to legalize recreational marijuana this year. We'll likely have to wait a little longer, perhaps as long as 2 years. Cincinnati businessman Jimmy Good, who got it on the ballot last time. He's thinking it'll be 19 or 20, 2020. I guess, like I said, my concern is not the medical marijuana and not having a place here. Having a place here that will turn into also have a recreational marijuana. That's the issue, not the medical marijuana. And if there's only 5 doctors writing recommendations, and there's only going to be 3, supposedly, you guys come up with that 3. I don't know where you got it when there's only going to be 57 in the whole state of 88 counties. So some counties aren't even going to have one, and we're going to get 3. I'm not the one to decide that, but what makes you think Colerain should have one? Why are we the drop off? We got the dump, garbage dump. We got that. You think that's good for our township? I don't think so. We have the check cashing place. You think those are good? I don't think so. Pawn shops? I don't think so. Place where you can go down and sell your blood? I don't think so. You know, basically we're a bedroom community. Y'all worry about Colerain Avenue, but we are a bedroom community. We're not a commercial community. We're not something that you can stick it over medical marijuana over by by Rumpke or something. Something you all want to put it on Colerain Avenue or something like that. I strongly urge you not to vote for it, or actually you're going to vote for the. Thank you. You're going to vote for the amendment. I hope. God bless you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bernie.
And the other 2 people that were sworn in was Bruce and.
I think that's it.
Okay, Bruce.
And it also said if it were legal, 38% of people said it would bother them to see a store selling marijuana in their community.
Thank you, Bernie. Hey, Bruce.
Yeah, I've actually looked into this issue over the last 30-some years. Not the medical marijuana, but marijuana in general. And as a medical professional, I've got a number of things to say. One, I support Chief Denny's memo that was in the package for this meeting. I do believe there are legitimate medical uses of marijuana-derived drugs and products. But I also strongly believe this needs to be taken up by the U.S. FDA and developed standards for what is going to be dispensed, potency, etc. Because reality is these shops, a lot of it's going to be marijuana itself, which people will smoke, and I'll get to that in a minute. Some of it may be extracts, but like a lot of natural products, which are not regulated by FDA of the federal government, the potency, the concentrations, the contaminants won't really be controlled. So to me, that's a medical issue. And Mike, I haven't looked at some of the statistics you've recently looked at, but since most banks do not bank in marijuana business because of federal regulations or federal possible prosecution, there is a real high risk of armed robberies at the stores or or increased robberies at savings and loans, etc., who may set up shop for these companies. Establishments with marijuana will be a focus of armed criminals. Both individuals, this person says, okay, I need to get high or I need to get money and I'm going to do something, or organized crime. And that could be local gangs or national criminals. Because they want the money or they want the product. This has a very good probability of increasing shootings and injuries and deaths at the crime scenes, in other words, the local establishments, and possible injuries and death from fleeing criminals from the crime scenes. I mean, we need to be, look at this realistically. How many times are the Walgreens knocked over in Colerain Township? And I heard today about an incident where somebody coming out with their prescription being accosted. These are real issues, and I do feel that there are legitimate uses, but I don't think the time is right, and I feel for people who wouldn't need it. But there are a criminal element out there. There's an element out there whose only objective is to get high, just like with the opiates. And some final thoughts. Since a lot of this will be smoked, smoking marijuana has adverse cardiopulmonary effects worse than smoking cigarettes. And for those who are thinking of, working for the federal government or some state governments, that they do urine and blood testing sometimes. I was subject to it. And people don't realize that this is detectable in your fluids for up to 90 days. So even if you're hanging around with your buddies got medical marijuana, you could get enough in your system to lose your job or be rejected for a job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Was that everybody?
We did have one more, I think. Jim.
Well, no, everybody, I want everybody who was sworn in that wanted to. Jim, were you sworn in?
Yeah, he was sworn in.
Okay, you can come up and speak, Jim. Adjust, you're good.
I am basically for medical marijuana, but not in Colerain Township. I've heard a lot of people speak. Mike made a great presentation tonight. He had some facts and numbers. But my biggest question back to everybody is, how many people in our township need medical marijuana? Nobody's told us this. There's no records anywhere. You can go to any place you want on a website, and nobody can give you those numbers. Why do we need a place selling medical marijuana when we got Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, Target, got pharmacies? That's where it should be sold in my book. I've met people, and I've mentioned this before, working and volunteering at the Ronald McDonald House. I see a lot of kids. Yes, the people there at the house, what's their policy? Those that want medical marijuana go next door to the hospital to get it. We cannot dispense it to anybody that is using it in the house are asked to leave if they're not under hospital care. My concern is, as Bernie said, medical marijuana is different than, I'll call them the dope heads because that's what I call them. We're not worried about regular marijuana. In Bernie's book, it's all the same. In my book, it's not. If I want to smoke a medical marijuana cigarette or inject myself, that's something different. But there are people out there that need it. But my concern is let them go where the people that know what they're doing is take care of this. The chief, he said he's against it. He's got his reasons. I can understand a lot of them. I don't think you three gentlemen, as it's been brought up before, understand medical marijuana, what it's all about. You don't have the time to research it because all three of you are working. You got families at home at night. You want to spend Saturdays and Sundays not cutting the grass or doing this and that. That's your privilege. But to understand what's going on is the problem that people in Colerain do not understand. Why would our sister townships say no to it? Somebody there on their boards, trustees or whatever they might call them, researched and looked at it. They sat in an executive session and discussed it. This is what you guys have got to do. Right now, I say support what is put before you. In a year from now, or maybe 6 months from now, you might have the time and the facts about what's going on. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that can give you those information by mouth, by text message, or however they want to do it. But at this point, we do not need medical marijuana sold on any street corner in Colerain Township. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Was that everybody that was sworn in? Okay, so everyone had a chance to speak.
So the next, I would suggest a motion, that was included in the trustee packet also. So yep. So I would recommend a motion to close the public hearing at this point, since we've exhausted all the folks that wanted to talk.
I would motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second the motion.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote to close the public hearing.
Mr. Inscoe?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
And now, if there's any discussion that you all would like to have amongst yourself, or questions that you have of staff, now would be a good time to answer it. But at the
I'll
end,
make a few comments. I have thought about this quite a bit. I watched my father go through a very painful death 2 years ago of cancer. I would to address a couple of comments. I disagree that this is not a political decision for me at all. As I said when we discussed this a few months ago, it is a legal decision. There was a comment about the marijuana being grown on Spring Grove Avenue on the old Con site, which is now owned by the people that own a Rheingeist brewery, and they're in the middle of constructing their building. I don't think they were able to get a license. To the other comment, I have not discussed this at all with the other two trustees, and I don't believe it's an executive session topic, and we have not discussed it in executive session. I would agree that the establishment of a facility, and I think the recreational folks are going to keep coming back and back and back until they get what they want, just like the casinos did, and eventually we got casinos after a number of times being on the state ballot. I love states' rights. The state of Ohio legislature took a proactive step and passed the medical marijuana law in an effort to take that argument away from the recreational folks. And I love states' rights, and to me, that trumps the federal rights. Sadly, this is against federal law at this time. For somebody to establish a brick and mortar business to sell this, they would need business insurance. I can't see how that any claim against that business or any other business for that matter, I can see that claim being dismissed because the medical marijuana business is in violation of federal law. If there was ever a business tort or anything, I can see it, the insurance company, I don't see how they could buy business insurance. That would go across state lines. I agree that, there's a number of companies, Walgreens and CVS and Target, that are set up to handle controlled substances, and there's a reason that they're not running medical marijuana through their businesses. As far as the banking issue and handling the money through a credit union, I guess our credit unions covered under federal deposit insurance. I guess I'm not familiar with the legality of running it through a credit union, but the fact is they won't run it through regular banks that are covered by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Those are my comments. I would defer to the other trustees. I don't know if you want to go first, Raj.
Sure, I can get. If you see the history, how in Ohio the marijuana law come to effect. The first time, 10 millionaires, I would rather call them billionaires too, they spend millions of dollars to advertise to make marijuana legalize marijuana. People shut it down. People didn't want it in Ohio. What they did, these millionaires, about 10 millionaires, they had a special interest. They have only the special rights. They are the only people can have the license to grow. You know, nobody else, they deposit money. They again spend millions of dollars again and influence the legislatures, state lawmakers. They went after them. I don't know what they did, but they did. They thought they can play the sneaky game, put the medical marijuana, bring the medical, eventually they can put it for the legalized. That's one the resident mentioned about it, Bernie mentioned about it. So they influenced these people, the rich people, to have the dispense the medical marijuana. These are the people with the special interest. They have a hidden agenda. Eventually, it'll go to the recreation purpose. Agree with the people. There are some medical issues, helps certain disease. It helps, but yet, like Bruce said, it's not yet approved by the FDA. Why these people? It's not controlled yet. What type of ingredients goes in there? It'll be like a private dispensary. If any medicine you want to buy, where do you go? You go to pharmacy to buy your medicines. If that is the case in the medical marijuana, why didn't the Walgreens and CVS didn't want to get involved in this? Okay? The Children's Hospital have the power to dispense for the children. They get from the children's, for the children's. And also, these people, whoever wants to propagate for the medical marijuana, they still don't have any plans. The reason the past trustees didn't pass a resolution because they didn't see any plan, how they can enforce, how they can do this dispensaries or even any type of plan. They just pass the law. State doesn't have a specific plan yet. So this first part. The second part, Chief wrote a memo to zoning commissions. What are the outcomes that the township will receive? Still under the federal, I don't know, Mike tried to argue, the federal says, okay, it's not a law passed yet. It's still under the federal violations to dispense or sell anything here in the township. He said, we will lose, the Colerain Township will lose a lot of federal money, federal grants, federal funding. Do we need to take the risk? The township lose all this money? We already have a problem, our budget. So losing the federal money is a great, great disaster for the township. I think this township come up with a rich heritage. They have pride in the township. The residents have the pride in this. The township is 234 years of the heritage, and people want this now. I think the people, if they want a medical marijuana for the medical marijuana or the recreational purpose or medical, I think people should decide. The people should decide. They want to make a referendum. Let the township people know whether they want marijuana in this town or not, or they want to have a dispensary put up in the township. I think at this point, I, as a trustee, don't approve this.
Thank you, Raj. Greg?
Super. So responding to some of the comments here, Don being the first one. I think you being torn is a great representation of a sign of the times. I think it's just times are definitely changing, and I thank you for your honesty. I know it's hard to, they say you can't teach it, an old dog new tricks, but the reality is, like, there are a lot of open-minded people here that are changing their mind on this issue, and it sounds like you're one that's come around. So thanks for being open-minded. I think there's something to be said for that. Mike, I never heard the lobbyist rumor, but I do think it's a matter of time. I think Dan's casino analogy was great. I thought that was really interesting. Rachel, I think not in a negative way, right? Again, you were spot on, but that knowledge that comes with your opinion, it just takes time. It just takes time for people to see it from a different scope and from a different lens, and to have people that have been affected and need it, and maybe can't travel to get it and whatnot. And so I appreciate your comments there. Bernie, thanks for the input. Jim, thanks for the input. Bruce, the FDA should regulate it. I absolutely agree with that. I think for me, the ultimate decider on this really should be the residents. And for something like this, I would rather put the power back in the residents' hands. And really, the only way to do that is to put it on the ballot. The downside to that is that that's expensive. Can anybody comment on what it costs to put something on a ballot? Anyone? Larry, not sure? I want to say, and I don't even know where I get this number from, but I want to say it was like $50,000 to put something on a ballot. It's expensive, which is, essentially the whole point of why you have trustees, because if you didn't have trustees, you'd have to put everything on a ballot, and it would be insane if every month you had to go vote on a 3-cent raise or a contractor, something like that. So anyway, we're here for a reason, but for me, it's I really think this is one of those things. As a trustee, you have to represent the residents as a whole, and sometimes that's difficult to do because you've got the internet generation that someday their kids will be going, wow, this used to be illegal. It's just, and then you've got the voters, the people that actually go out and vote, who primarily seniors, who are against it, and it's very hard to decipher who's in the majority, who's in the minority, what direction you want to see this community going. And I certainly listen to everyone. I'll continue to listen to everyone. But for me personally, this is an issue that there are only so many things that you can fix with polls on the internet or just networking amongst your sphere of influence. There's just certain things, town halls aren't going to fix this. I think this is just one of those cases that I think needs to be a ballot issue. So that's kind of where I stand on it. I appreciate everyone's sincerity and honesty, though, on this issue, and I hope we get it right. That's at the end of the day. Your elected officials are listening to you. They don't have to agree with you, but they do have to listen. And I have no doubt in my mind, myself, and obviously Raj and Dan as well, have listened. And that's sometimes the most you can expect from them. So hopefully they vote in your favor, whichever side you're on this. Unfortunately, when you have something that's 50-50, you're not always going to get what you want, and sometimes you just have to respect the the decision and the opinions of others. So I think that's kind of where I stand on there. If that helps.
I think at this point, if your deliberation is done, a good idea would be a motion to consider the action here, which is a resolution adopting, a motion to adopt the resolution, which makes the text amendment.
Well, I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution.
And I'll second it. So it's been motioned and seconded.
So the board is aware you are discussing resolution adopting text amendments to the Colerain Township zoning resolution regarding the prohibition of the cultivating, processing, and retail dispensing of medical marijuana.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I would just comment that when the federal law gets straightened out, I'd certainly consider it differently. Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Inskill?
My vote's going to be to abstain, and that's just for the simple reason that I would like to put the power back in the residents' hands and put it on the ballot, assuming that would be a fiscally responsible thing to do, because it doesn't sound like anybody knows what it would cost to put it on the ballot. So my vote would be to abstain, and I respectfully, humbly will continue to listen to all your opinions on this. So thank you.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Yes.
And Mr. Unger.
Aye or yes. So that's 2 votes affirmative.
Right.
The motion carries.
Motion carries.
Next item, Mr. Mills.
Great. Now it's time for new business, and we'll begin with public safety and Chief Cook.
The motion carries 2 votes affirmative and 1 abstention. So the motion carries.
That's correct, Larry, right? You don't need a unanimous vote on a public or on a text amendment? Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Chief.
Okay, I have 4 items for the board to consider this evening. The first one being recommend the adoption of a motion to contingently hire the following candidates as part-time fire department employees. Austin Walter, firefighter paramedic at an hourly rate of $15.93. Benjamin Stopel, firefighter emergency medical technician at an hourly rate of $14.50. And Natasha Simmons, firefighter emergency medical technician at an hourly rate of $14.50 an hour. The recommended candidates are replacement for part-time firefighter EMT employees that have recently separated from the department. The hiring of the 3 candidates will be contingent upon successful completion of all applicable pre-employment evaluations and procedures. Their start date will be effective as soon as possible after Sunday, May 20th, 2018, following compliance of the aforementioned conditions with a 1-year probationary period.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Thank you for getting that door, by the way.
Mr.
Thank
Insco?
you. Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you. The second item is recommend adoption of a motion to hire Mr. Corbin Ralston in the capacity of a part-time co-op student in the Division of Fleet Maintenance at an hourly rate of $12 per hour. Mr. Ralston is currently a student at the Commercial Truck and Equipment Program at Colerain High School's Career Center. His work hours will not exceed 30 hours per week. Mr. Ralston will provide the department access to the latest talent pool of potential employees and continue the department's partnership with the school's program. Additionally, it will provide the student a valuable work experience. The co-op employee will work under the close supervision of the fleet manager and the technicians within the division in assisting with mechanical repairs and preventative maintenance work on the motorized vehicles and power equipment in the division.
I would motion for approval.
I'll second the motion.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would like to comment that the schools have excellent vocational programs with the Butler Tech program, and it's really difficult to get young people to go into those trades, and I applaud you for reaching out to the vocational school and hopefully finding a good candidate, and you can have a real nice career in that field.
Well, thank you. This is an excellent opportunity for Mr. Ralston. You know, it gives him a different perspective and some very valuable experience, and then other than just the diesel mechanics or the gasoline mechanics, you know, the work that our guys do on hydraulic systems, electrical systems, is just going to...
Sure, and it's becoming more and more technical,
yeah.
And I think we had a state diesel mechanic champion when I was on the school board at one point from that program. Was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you. The third item is to recommend the adoption of a motion to purchase from the Machine X Company of Cincinnati, Ohio, a firefighter turnout gear washer extractor machine in the amount of $10,997.60, minus a grant award of $9,164.67 from the State of Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation. The department's obligation in this purchase would be $1,832.93. The purpose of the washer extractor equipment allows for the immediate decontaminating of personal protective clothing. When I talk about protective clothing, I'm talking about the protective coats, the trousers, the hoods, the gloves that the firefighters wear during firefighting and efforts. Currently, 3 of the 5 fire stations are equipped with this equipment. The department was the recipient of a firefighter exposure to environmental elements grant award in November of 2017.
I have a motion for approval.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I'd congratulate you on the hunt to go out and find these grants, and the previous trustees. Obviously, that happened during their tenure. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Driscoll?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you. The last item is to recommend the adoption of a motion to accept a $100 donation from Mr. John Sadler of Okeana, Drewsburg Road, Okeana, Ohio. The donation was provided in remembrance of Captain Robin Brocksterman and firefighter Brian Shira.
I would motion for approval.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I ask that you would, we'll go ahead and take a vote, and I'd ask that you'd send a thank you upon an affirmative vote.
Absolutely.
Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Driscoll?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Thank you, Board, very much.
Very good. The next item in new business is for Department of Public Services and Kevin Schwartzoff.
Thank you, Jeff. I have a motion authorizing the hire of a summer camp director. I recommend that we hire Jenna Hinglefort as summer camp director effective May 14th, 2018, at an hourly rate of $15 an hour, contingent upon her successful background investigation.
Thank you. I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, real quick. I really want to get involved on this. Trust me, this is near and dear to my heart. And I had to step back and go, all right, let Kevin do his job, because I promise I would have been in every one of those interviews. This is obviously something really important to me and really passionate. But at the end of the day, I'm going to support all these hires. Obviously, I don't have any qualms with any of them. I think you did a great job. But I am going to abstain. One of them is a girlfriend, not the one you're mentioning right now. But all of them had some sort of a connection to the program, which was really important. Just to know how it works and to have been part of it and all that. So I'm going to abstain from my votes on all these, but I want all of these counselors and directors and co-directors to know that I wholeheartedly support them, and I plan on being there hopefully every day, side by side, volunteering along with them, since obviously I can't work technically. I can volunteer though. So you're all welcome to come down and play some dodgeball with me this summer, but that's all from me on that.
May I suggest then, if you're going to abstain, that you not make the motion?
Okay, yeah. So unfortunately, I did just make the motion. So now how do I...
Why don't you just withdraw the motion and let somebody else?
Okay, I'm going to withdraw the motion then.
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second it. It's been
Thank you.
motioned and seconded. Is there, that's for the first one, which is Ms. Higglefort, correct?
Yes.
I'll motion for, Raj motioned and I seconded, and with no further discussion, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Driscoll?
Aye. Oh, no, I'm abstaining. Diesel Pete's after all that. Goodness gracious.
I already started writing
Boy.
abstain. I was like, now we change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Forgive me. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I had a lot going on out
Mr.
there.
Rajagopal?
Aye.
And Mr. Unger?
Aye.
I have a motion authorizing the hire of summer camp assistant director. I recommend that we hire Miranda Elliott as summer camp assistant director effective May 14th, 2018, at an hourly rate of $12.50 per hour, contingent upon a successful background investigation.
I make a motion.
And I will second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Driscoll?
Abstain.
Mr. Rajagopal?
I think Miranda will make a great job, and she's got a passion for this case. She got great qualification. I say yes.
And Mr. Unger?
Aye. Motion carries.
I also have a motion authorizing the hire of our summer camp counselors. I recommend we hire the following list of applicants as summer camp counselors effective May 14th, 2018, at an hourly rate of $9.50, contingent upon a successful background investigation. Kevin McMillan, Rachel Ashton, Brianna Axton, Madison Mead, and Alyssa Nizer.
A motion for approval?
Oh, no.
Take a motion.
Speak up, Raj. Say second. So you second it.
I second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Driscoll?
Abstain.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
And Mr. Unger?
Aye.
I just wanted to say, I know one of these candidates personally,
Nice.
and I'm very glad I would have to abstain as well, but I'm thrilled that these kids are going to have a lot of fun this summer.
Which one? I didn't.
Number 5.
I don't have numbers on me. Oh, nice. 3 of them, I think, are in attendance
Okay.
tonight. Thank you for being here, you 3.
Next item,
Motion
Kevin.
to make capital purchase of chemical pump control for the spray ground. I recommend we spend $5,000 to purchase a chemical spray ground from PSS Consultants. The rationale is the chemical control pump adjusts pH of the water using muriatic acid and adjusts the amount of chlorine we add to sanitize the water. The original pump was purchased in 2011 when the spray ground opened. Both muriatic acid and chlorine are very corrosive and are hard on pumps. Currently, we are doing much of our water quality control by hand because our current pump is not dependable. PSS Consultants is also the contractor that built our spray ground and handles all of our technical maintenance operations and repairs. And the cost is $5,000, and it was included in our 2018 capital budget.
Make the motion.
I second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Very quickly, I'll say the spray park or spray ground is an awesome place for an inexpensive field trip for our day camp program. So maybe on a Wednesday, bring the kids out there.
And I would ask, is this going to be, by passing this, will this allow you enough time to get this opened on time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Harlow, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
My final item is a resolution authorizing the filing of a grant with NatureWorks grant application. I recommend approval to authorize Kevin Schwartzoff to submit a grant application with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for the NatureWorks grant program.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'd like the board to know that the resolution is resolution authorizing Director of Public Services Kevin Schwartzoff to file an application with NatureWorks.
And I would ask the question, it says the minimum match of 25% or $50,000 will be required by the township. Is it 25% of 150? Because that's not 50.
25% of 200,000. Our total grant would be the 200,000.
50 of 200, and that's your budget number for replacing that. I'm very proud that when that first mega land was built, Jerry Otto and Dan Mecklenburg and Paula Skitt and myself and Greg Schneider went up to Wilmington to look at one of the first ones that have been built up there. And Paula Skitt and Jerry Otto, if you're out there somewhere, it's 20-something years later, and here we are.
Yeah.
I got elected trustee, Paula. I don't know where you're at nowadays. I'm looking at the camera, so talking to you. Was there any other discussion? Hearing none. It's been motioned and seconded, so please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye. I want to. It's a great work, Kevin. Appreciate it.
All right, here's the resolution. Please.
And Heather, did you call me?
I did.
I said aye? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Mr. Unger, the next item on the agenda is a resolution declaring a nuisance and ordering abatement at 2 addresses, specifically 7175 Sheed and 6683 Springdale Road. Recommend adoption of that motion.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? I heard someone during public comments tonight mention that some of the Springdale cleaning has commenced. Is the bank on that, or?
No. A former owner has been working on it.
He's been taking
Chipping away.
realizing that he's run out of options. He's over there finally liberating some property that's probably not his anymore because the bank owns it.
Yes,
So the owner has finally come back around and realizes that his time has run out.
Yes, sir.
And
We've been very aggressive in recent weeks.
that neighbor David that contacted me a couple weeks into my term, I can't wait to see the place cleaned up. It's just a mess and a fire hazard and everything else.
Yes, sir.
So it's been motioned and seconded, and is there any other discussion? Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Very good. The next item relates back to the very first thing that we talked about this evening, and when Dr. White came and talked about his the Giving Tree program, they would like to donate $250 to the township for the purpose of buying vegetation for the orchard at Northbrook, and the recommendation is to accept that $250 grant.
I move that we accept the grant.
I'll second that.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
we've done an incredible bit of business in the last just few minutes, but notwithstanding the beginning of the summer camp program, which I know is near and dear to Trustee Insko's heart,
Very much,
this,
thank you.
this next item is very exciting to me. It's a resolution appointing Mr. Jeffrey Weckbach to the position of Assistant Township Administrator and approving the attached contract. Mr. Weckbach is in the audience here. I can't say enough about Mr. Weckbach. He graduated from Northern Kentucky University, where in just a few short years earned 3 degrees, with the last degree having a double major. He's got bachelor's in science and economics with a minor in public administration. He's got a bachelor of arts in criminal justice with a second major in political science, and a bachelor of arts in philosophy with a minor in geography. He also has a master's degree in public administration from the Northern Illinois University. And you know, to say that the guy is sharp is an understatement. He is energetic. He is dedicated to public service. He is an incredible get for Colerain Township, and I can't wait to add him to our team. I think he's going to fit right in, and I think he's going to hit the ground running, despite the fact that we have to wait until June 11th. But that's because he has a duty to his current employer, and he's going to respect that duty and wrap things up where he's at. Most recently, he serves as the Senior Policy Manager for Hamilton County, and I've said it already, but I just can't wait for Jeff to join the team. Recommendation is to approve the appointment, the resolution, and contract.
Proudly make the motion.
I second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
This is the resolution appointing Jeffrey Weckbach Jr. to the position of Assistant Township Administrator and approving attached contract.
As far as discussion goes, everyone take the time to get to know this guy. He is unbelievable. You know, when we went through, oh my God, 4 months of interviews and just all the time we spent in there, I was just hoping that I had that moment that many of you felt when you met your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend, you know, that moment of, oh my God, this is the one. And unfortunately, that moment happened for me right when he walked in. I thought, oh God, suppress it. So I suppressed it. In every interview, he just killed it. I mean, the guy was just unbelievable. And, you know, I'm very fortunate that everyone else saw that too. And I'm very proud of, you know, coming to the conclusion with everyone. But you know, I even said to Jeff, I said, "Man, this guy's good. I bet he changed his own diapers as a kid. I mean, he's just so far above everybody else. You know, if he'd gone in the medical field, he would have cured something. I mean, the guy's just amazing, and I'm so thankful to have you here. So thank you, and I already made the motion.
And it was seconded.
Second motion.
So did you have anything to say, Rosh?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Jeff is a very intelligent man. I know him, work in the county. He's highly regarded. He's one of the top-notch budget guy in the county. He works very well with each department. That's very important. The interaction with the other agencies. The county has different departments, but he works closely with them. He understands their problem. He understands their need. Then he also knows how to appropriate the money, and he also got a great negotiation skill. And with that kind of skill, working with Jeff, and he's got all the background, the economic development, and all these things he had in his vision, and these two guys will have a great team, and I'll see Colerain Township great again. You know, we got 3, you know, new board, and these guys are a great team, and they will work hard. They're very ambitious. They're thriving for the great success, and I'll see a lot of new things will be happening in this township. And I really support Jeff. I'll say yes.
Thank you, Raj. And my comment is there's a lot of work to do here at the township, and over the last 4 months since the new term started, there's a lot of areas that we can improve, and I'm sincerely counting on you to add to the talent pool here and help us get a lot of issues squared away so that we can function better. And with that, I will ask Heather to call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Emphatically, yes.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Yes.
And Mr. Rucker. And since I'm still talking, I can say congratulations.
Congratulations.
I didn't vote yet.
Yes, you did. I heard you.
I said aye.
Well, that's voting.
Jeff, would you come on up and sit over here in this empty chair next to Greg?
Oh, that's a good empty chair.
Up here so the camera can see you. Yeah, just come on up here.
I have a feeling Jason has that.
Just come on up here and sit up here.
Let him
Good,
say a
Jason.
few words. Let him say.
I wanted to, go
That's
ahead.
where he's going to be sitting anyway.
The president's lost control of the meeting, go ahead. Pull your microphone over. Use your microphone.
First snafu on the
Yeah,
job,
first day,
right?
living it.
But, I really just wanted to say thank you to both the residents and the board. I'm really excited about this opportunity. I think there's a lot of good work that we can do, and I hope to feed off of some of the passion that I've seen in the room today from the residents. It's really great to see how much you guys care about the township, and I hope to fulfill everyone's expectations. So thank you all again for the kind words.
Thank you. You just made everyone melt in the audience. That was
Thank you, and thank you, and we're looking forward to having you here. The next item is the fiscal office report.
All right, well, this is Mr. Weckbach's resolution and contract. If you'd sign both pages that are flipped sideways. Try to get that done while we're here. I'd like to ask for the board's usual approval of payroll, purchase orders, and receipts.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
And I've received word from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control about request for a new permit. And Mr. Rajagopal, help me. The name of this business, this is that new fantastic Indian restaurant that's there on
Sarah Bob.
Sarah Bott. Okay, thank you. I didn't want to disrespect anyone by saying it incorrectly. So it's 6900 Cheviot Road. I did speak with Chief Denny and Mr. Kohler, and neither see the need for a hearing. So if the board agrees, I will send this on back to the Division of Liquor Control.
A motion for approval?
Second.
We typically don't do a true motion.
So you don't need us, you
Kind
just
of-
need us to say we agree?
Right. So if you agree, we're good.
I agree. Great restaurant, by the way.
I agree.
Everyone should try it.
So, all right. Thank you all.
Mr. Unger, at this time, can we dismiss the remaining department heads?
Sure, if
okay.
you'd care to excuse yourself, it's a little after 10. If you're welcome to stay, but you're free to go.
You're free.
And the next item is, does anyone in the audience have any questions? I know there was a couple on your zoning presentation. Please approach the microphone and speak into the mic.
I'm back like a penny. Okay, Jeff, what you said was how you went through that gave me an idea how you went through the ordinances versus the violations and all that. The one thing I would say when residents do call, this happened to me and I mentioned this earlier, you can only drive by from the front of the residence. So if the front of the residence is this flat, the grass, but the backyard is this high, there's nothing you can do. That needs to be related to the residents so they can tell you that you have permission.
Sure.
My next question is, like someone else mentioned about Liberty Township. I have family that lives in Green Township, Anderson Township, Liberty Township, and when they come through Colerain Township, they are appalled at what they see that we're allowed. And when that man, when you put the picture up with that would not be allowed in Anderson Township, Liberty Township, the city of Madeira, the city of Montgomery, Indian Hills. So what language are they using in their ordinances and their violations that they can stop that on properties that we're not using in Colerain Township?
Sure. Okay, so a couple of things. The first item that you brought up was getting permission to go on people's property, and that's one of the great things about the CSR process is that when you give us your request for service, you're also giving us a contact email address. So then if we go out and we can't get to where we can contact you, we have that contact information right there in the system already. So if you use CSR, we'll be able to contact the complainant and hopefully gain access if the issue is in the back. As it relates to those communities that you just described, I think that intelligent people can disagree on things, but those communities that you described have a different socioeconomic demographic than Colerain Township does in many cases. So in a lot of cases, the issue is not related to somebody wanting to be a scofflaw. It's related to poverty, and it's related to social norms, and it's related to culture. And so you can't legislate. My opinion is you can't legislate those things, right? We may have the same. I haven't studied their laws, but we may have the same laws. But laws aren't what's driving the behavior. The behavior is occurring, and we're trying to use laws to bring folks into compliance with our very lowest expectation for how you should maintain your property.
But my point is, as a resident, my point is, when my brother comes in from Liberty Township, he's afraid to come into my home. Just like Raj was telling you about the woman for 40 years that's afraid to come out of Jackie's. My brother's afraid to come because all he sees is junk cars and what that man showed in the pictures and refrigerators and washer. And he says, this is unbelievable. You're one of the largest townships and you're allowed to do this in your homes. This is allowed to go. And I mean, I don't agree with what you said about that picture.
Sure.
You said you didn't see rubbish and garbage. You bring in somebody from Anderson Township, Madeira, Indian Hills, Liberty Township, and okay, maybe that person's economical, social status is not somebody from Indian Hills or Liberty Township, but that doesn't mean the person who lives next door to them or down the street for them should have to look at that and drive by that every day just because I live in Colerain Township. And the socioeconomic and the culture of Colerain Township is not up to the level of Liberty Township or Anderson Township. So my quest is for the new board and for you to try to look at the language and see how they do that. Because I don't think it's fair that just because I live in Colerain Township, my brother lives in Liberty Township, what Greg said, they're not allowed to paint their houses purple, blue, pink, and green because it's in their ordinance or their violations. So we shouldn't be allowed to have to drive by and have people coming in to want to buy our homes and look at our homes and say, "Ew, why is that neighbor like? Oh, our township's allowed. That's allowed. That's not considered rubbish. That's not considered garbage. That's not considered an eyesore because according to the way they read our township language, it's not like that. And that's not the right way to go if we want the township to be a livable township. We have to, as a township and as a board, raise up that standard, not that low economic, start to raise that up. And what that man's house look like, I'd be in your office and be calling you nonstop.
And he does.
You got to do something. You got to do something. Well, I'm sorry. I admire him for doing that. I think he should continue to do that.
Yep.
And that's what I'm going to continue to do on the house next door to me. I'm going to continue to keep calling you and keep doing everything because I feel what Liberty Township has, Green Township, Anderson Township, Indian Hills, Madeira, their homes aren't as much as ours, but the outside of the home, put it in the backyard, put it in your garage, burn it, donate it, do whatever you want to do. But you as the township, you as those trustees should be enforcing those codes to the point where that shouldn't be allowed in our township.
If I can briefly comment on that, it wasn't but a year ago that we didn't have code enforcement, and I couldn't believe that I couldn't get the other two board members to agree with me to hire code. The most basic. It's a community, a huge community, and they acted like we didn't have enough money for code enforcement. So we finally got it, and I think in a lot of ways it takes a lot longer than a year and a half to curve it, to get people in compliance, to even find out where all the issues are. Some of the obvious ones where we've driven by them and we've been able to take care of them, but as far as raising the standard, who would disagree with that? We all want to raise the standard, but I think Jeff said it very well with the socioeconomic issue there. you're never going to see a lawnmower in front of somebody's garage door in Indian Hill because they have landscapers. They don't even know them, you know what I mean? So like it just kind of comes with the territory to a degree, but we can always be better. And I think code enforcement was the right first step, and it's a slow process. And I mean, if you were I don't know if you were around this time last year, I think it was a little bit before that, we were having issues with people parking on their lawn. I mean, parking on their lawn.
On my street, I called and
Oh, unbelievable. I mean, and that blew my mind. I had someone, this is not an exaggeration. I said to the person, they're like, oh, you shouldn't tell me I can park on my lawn. I said, ma'am, you can't park on your lawn. Not only does it look bad, but it's a safety issue. What if your house is on fire? Word for word, she said to me, she said, I'll move it. I said, no. If your house is on fire, how are you going to move your car? Well, I'll run out and move it. I said, no. What, God forbid, knock on wood, you've succumbed to the smoke or something like that. How are you going to move your car? Oh, well, the fire department can move it for me. Then she takes it a step further. I said, ma'am, how is the fire department going to hotwire your car? Oh, I leave the keys to the car in the car. I'm like, no, ma'am. Like that was the mentality of a lot of our residents. I mean, I fought that. I got a lot of crap for that on the internet, fighting people that you can't park in your lawn because it was so acceptable for so long it became normal. And we had to raise the standard. And it's simple things like that do raise the standard. And it just takes some patience and some painful conversations and sit people down and going, no, the fire department should never have to think I have to get in your car, hopefully the keys are there, turn it on, start it so I can put out the fire in your house. It takes time. It takes time, patience, and it takes persistence. And I think, you hit on it earlier with your neighbors, getting everybody on board. That's what it takes. There's strength in numbers, and you have to be persistent because we have 1.5 code enforcement officers. And when I say 1.5, that's because one of them is part-time seasonal to help out with but that 1.5 has, you saw all the green dots on there, and this isn't even the busy season. Those guys, we're going to owe them lunch every day. Their work is going to be cut out for them. So, continue. This is what I tell people. Report everything you see. Because the reality is a lot of people don't report things because they feel like they're not listened to or they're not being heard or nothing will be done about it. Well, that doesn't help us because then we can't identify the problem. The reality is we need a paper trail. And if you called every day on the same property and all your neighbors did, there's a good chance we're going to see all those dots and go, okay, Jeff would come to the board and say, guys, I hate to do this to you, but I think we need another code enforcement officer. Or, hey, we don't have hardly any green dots anymore because they did such a good job. I think we could get part-time help on this. We don't even need a full-time officer. But if residents don't call and complain, and here's the thing, there's such a negative connotation with complaining. Complaining is caring. It really is. At the end of the day, as long as somebody isn't being cynical, complaining is caring. If you're complaining, it's because you care, and I respect that tenfold. So keep the complaints coming, be respectful. But there are definitely times when I do wish residents, because I see it all the time, people posting online pictures of their neighbor's house, just call them, send them a text, offer to help them. A lot of times the guy whose grill is in front of his house next to his lawnmower, it's because, he couldn't physically move it in himself, or, maybe he's going through a hardship, or he or she. You never know. So I think ultimately empathy is really going to be the solution here. Just caring, just people caring enough. Now, in your case with drugs and all that, leave it to the police. You know what I mean? I wouldn't tell you to get involved in that. But some of the simpler things in life, I think just caring goes a long way. So.
Well, another thing you could do is have volunteer citizens. He could give us the addresses. We could go out and say, yep, junk here, junk there.
Yeah,
we could do the footwork of some
We have
of
a
the
great group of volunteers, especially the Northbrook group, who's usually here in great numbers. They've since looks like they've left, but that's a great group for that. They're very good about knocking on people's doors and saying, before it gets on the internet and before people start, and they'll be the first to help. So yeah, absolutely. Volunteer groups, if you've got one yourself or if you can join theirs or, whatever, please do. Please do. That's what community's all about, right? And
Yep.
I'm sorry you have a bad apple in your neighborhood, but we pick bad apples all day long. So
They picked my street.
Yeah,
I was
thank
there
you.
long before that.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you, Benita.
Thank you.
Was there anybody else that had a question? Jim?
Hate to keep everybody, it's late this evening, but.
No worries.
I do. There's been a lot of discussions since you gentlemen came on board, but there's been a lot of non-response. The chief left already, fire chief, but what's happening with Groesbeck Fire Station?
Jim, I can answer that.
Good. I wish you brought it up tonight, Raj, because I drove by there 3 times and I feel sorry for those guys.
I did too. I did too. Actually, 3 weeks ago, me and Chief, I rode with Chief. I saw several fire department, visited the fire stations. My goal is to see all of them. I've been to Groesbeck fire station twice. I really care about those guys.
Why hasn't it been condemned yet?
Sir, it takes a process. We got to find the money, and myself and Chief gonna come up with some discussions how we're gonna do this. And this is a project. It's not a small project. It's a big project. Now, 2 gentlemen, we sit with them, brainstorming, come up with the money, where we fund the funding to build that fire stations. It's in my agenda.
Okay, not to interrupt you, but the fire department has a large bank account. Let them take it out of there, then when we get the money in the general fund, pay it back to them. There's no excuse for this, Raj, to any fire department.
Just to be clear, there is no mold and there is no sewage at Station 26. There's no mold or sewage.
Not now.
It was abated years ago. There was a mold issue that was related to ductwork and condensation on ductwork that was wrapped in insulation. That was dealt with years ago, and there is no mold in Station 26, and there's also no sewage in Station 26.
Raj, the last meeting,
right?
you brought up about the Groesbeck
Yes,
fire station. That's where I'm coming from.
Right.
If
I
that's
agree.
true, then he should have said, sorry, I made a mistake.
No, I think he-
No. Jim, I want to explain to you. I'm sticking with this. I will keep pursuing it. I'll keep talking to the gentleman, and we got to. That station needs a new building. Absolutely, it's old building, and the condition, even though they terminated all the molding problem, the way the living conditions of the fire people living there, it's not acceptable. Okay?
Again, $11 million in their account. Let them spend some of that money to refurbish that and get it up to snuff. Then when the bills all come back in, then guys can say, well, we'll give you $1,000 this month, $1,000 next month to pay them back.
The faster we spend that money, the faster we have to ask for a levy, and that's a difficult decision we have to have with all the residents.
They don't need a levy. They got $11 million.
Well,
Greg,
and
check
it's
your finances
allocated.
and see what
It
they've
is-
got.
it is-
What's it allocated for?
All of our expenses to stretch that levy so that we don't have to go to the
Their
voters.
$11 million they have in a bank account?
I don't know the exact number. I'm sorry.
I can tell you, I know exactly. It's over $11 million.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'd
If we
like
could,
to
if we
ask
could
the
use that
chief
money to
what
build
he
all new
thought about
firehouses, that'd be wonderful. But it doesn't. I wish it worked. I wish it was that easy.
Okay, we'll go on to the next one. No sense arguing about that.
Okay.
Jeff, Memorial Day. How's
sir.
it going to be announced this year?
It'll be announced
Starting when, please?
through Facebook Circle and our website. And tomorrow we're actually going on site to the Veterans Memorial Park at Colerain and Springdale. We're going to walk through the ceremony, make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and then we'll be getting it out. It's a big deal. We're really proud of that memorial.
Correct, but the last 4 years that I've been there, there's very few veterans. How are you going to let us veterans know about it?
How should we
Because
let you
If
know?
I went and questioned you about it the other day, I have no idea what you guys are doing.
What-
You've got to get out some way. Northwest Press, the Inquirer, whatever. We need the veterans there. And Heather can tell you how passionate I am about this.
I know.
the other day.
I know.
Get somebody out there.
Yes, sir. Would you help us?
I've already told you I will go to the VFW.
Yes, sir. And that's why I appreciate that.
Nothing against you, Jeff didn't even know there was a VFW on Browns Way.
No, of course I
How
knew
many
that.
people here
Of course
know
I
that
knew
the
that.
VFW on Browns Way is in Colerain Township, not North College?
I was just there at the fish fry a month and a half ago.
My Friends Memorial benefit is there every year.
Yes, I will help you in any way I can, Jeff. And I
Great.
am.
Tell your friends, please.
Tom wasn't there this week. He will be back Monday. I will get in contact with him about the firing squad.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Well, it's not a firing squad. It's a.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I
Firing
like
squad.
Is it a firing squad?
a firing squad on Colerain Avenue. I don't know if I'm.
All right.
They use blanks, so.
Well, I just still don't know that that's a.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
Back to you, Jeff, again. What's the situation on the bridge?
The situation on the bridge?
The signage?
Right. Okay. So, so we're trying to figure out the best way to deal with this because we want to get it right. And I've solicited quotes from folks to fix the bridge, but frankly, A, it's not budgeted for this year, and B, I want to figure out the way to get the best outcome with the spending the least money. And I want it to look nice, but I don't want to spend $40,000 or $80,000 or $100,000 that could be going to something else, like fixing roads or code enforcement or, you know.
I agree with you. I
Yeah,
agree
so
with
we're
you.
trying to do the best we can with what we have. And so I've got quotes. I'm not satisfied with them. We're looking at different ways to accomplish the goal. We all want it to look better.
Can you, or can I stop by your office and see what signage they have recommended?
You know what I'd love to do is do a mock-up and have it here or someplace for the public to view.
I'd love that.
And
Perfect.
you know what I mean? And so that we can all take a look and because this is an issue that a lot of people have strong opinions about. And I want everybody to feel real comfortable with the direction that we go in.
We've been waiting this long. We got to get it right. You know what I mean? At this point, I'm willing to wait as long as it takes to make it right.
One recommendation, and I've met with some people about this, and you know who I'm talking about. But they came up with the idea of supporting the two high schools here.
Yes.
One with a knight on one side.
Cardinal on the other.
And a cardinal on the other side. Colerain, spelled out real big. In white letters, green letters, yellow, whatever. And I think that's one whale of an idea. And that would, you know, say, hey, that's us.
I like that.
We're the Northwest Knights. Hey, that's us. We're the Colerain Cardinals. Well, everybody knows the Cardinals because of the football team.
Sure.
But I think, look at that idea. I think, and if you want, I got my neighbor will gladly do the graphics for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank
maybe,
you.
Maybe we can do this, talk to the ODOT when they're ready to repair the bridges and stuff like that. That'd be a good timing too. So maybe try to get some money from ODOT when they do the bridge.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Can't even read my own writing here. But some of these houses that are being complained about and all that, I know a lot of them are rentals. But does anybody know how many houses in Colerain Township, particularly Northbrook, Groesbeck, how many are owned by out-of-town owners?
I don't have that.
I can tell you on my street's 13, out in California, Florida.
How do we find out who these people are to send them bills for the neglect and not keeping up with property standards?
So if somebody violates one of our rules, we find out who the owner is, and then
How
we
long
send.
does that take?
It,
If they're in Florida, you can probably supply in California. Do you know who these people are?
Yes, sir. Yeah, because they have to pay their property taxes, and if you go to the auditor's website, you'll find a listing of the owner and their address for
You
property
have to
taxes.
send everything to California saying this has got to be done, this has got to be done.
Yes, sir. Via certified mail.
According to California state laws, they throw it in the garbage can, you start all over again. Huh?
I wasn't
I'm
familiar
just
with that
I'm
law.
asking a question because I never knew everything that you had to go through.
Right. Yeah.
And
I know.
I'm glad to hear it.
I know. It is. It's. Yeah.
Okay. Two other things. Grass cutting there's a lot of people in the township that throw their grass clippings out into the street. Is there any way we get an ordinance or something to stop them doing that? Because that clogs up the sewers, and we got Kevin's department out there running around doing this, doing that, and everything else.
I don't think it's legal to do that, and I've actually seen a neighbor down the street do that, and I kind of casually mentioned, don't blow that down into the catch basin.
Yeah.
Please don't do that. Yeah.
Please do not sweep your leaves or grass clippings into the catch basins. It clogs up the system.
And it's bad for motorcycles too.
And it
Springdale Road,
sit in
you
the
know,
pipes
you're up
without
and down
moving.
Springdale Road. I mean, there's people up there. I mean, they throw it all the way out halfway into the street. What can we do about it? That's a county road, but I guess the county will let them do it. I'm just asking questions because
Sure.
I'm concerned about all the extra work that Kevin's department's doing with cleaning out all this mess. Mr. Unger, the last question's for you.
Great.
You have an administrator, you have an assistant administrator. When is the Financial Advisory Council going to come back on board?
We have discussed that, Mr. Mills.
Yeah, I think it's the will of the board, all three board members, and I think it would be very helpful also to establish a financial advisory committee, and we'll be, Jeff starts June 11th, and give us some time to, to make sure he's to not scare him away, and then we'll start it up. I mean, I think it will coincide nicely with that period of time between the tax budget and the temporary appropriations, which come in December. I think that's a great period of time to start taking a look at our budget and getting feedback and good ideas. And
We had actually discussed that in the last couple of days, Jeff and I had, because I wanted to wait till we had our administrative team in place before we started committees, and we've discussed committees for some other topics besides the financial committee.
Will they report to you, or will they be going out of Jim Rowan to Jeff and Jeff to you?
The way that worked when I was on some different committees for Hamilton County is we reported directly to the commissioners. So I guess that the committee would probably review what these guys are doing and report to us.
Agreed.
I guess that's how it would be structured.
Okay. Hopefully we got some recommendations by the next meeting, Jeff?
No, I don't think so.
There's people out there willing, waiting, and eager.
Well, we did pass a resolution a couple meetings ago with establishing a format which people could volunteer to serve on those committees, so we've got that part of it done. The application, was that on the April meeting?
It was, yep. But
modeled it after the Hamilton County application, so with no sense in reinventing the wheel. And when we're ready to establish these committees, we've got the paperwork infrastructure in place for it.
Great. How many of those financial people worry about looking at our Facebook? Gentlemen, reach out to people that you know that's been on it in the past, and those that are willing again to get back on the board and help us with our finances.
I'm sure that when we post that, there'll be a number of people interested in serving.
Post it soon, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else that had any questions about today's meeting? With that, we'll move on to the next item. I don't believe we need another executive session.
You don't want to go talk for a couple hours?
And so then I would ask for a motion. Thank you all for coming. I'd ask for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the motion.
A second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
May 26th is a safety fair. I forgot to bring that up in my trustee report at Northgate Mall. Sorry.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Heather, please call for a vote.
Happy early Mother's Day. Aye.
Mr. Rashid-Gopal?
Aye.
And Mr. Unger?
Aye. This meeting of the Colerain Township Board of Trustees is adjourned.
Thank you. Good job, guys.